Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight, I've been waiting for this one for a long time now, we have returning guest, Terry Lovelace. You might remember him if you've watched this show. He's been on several times. He's the author of Incident at Devil's Den, The Reckoning, chronicling his experience with E.T., alien abduction, and contact throughout his life. He's been a big influence on me. I am a number one fan of Incident at Devil's Den. You have to check out that book. And definitely listen to the interviews. If you've never heard him before, you have to hear Terry's story. It's incredible. Tonight, though, he has a new book. It is called Free Fall, an American Near-Death Experience. And I have not read this one yet. And usually I've always read the book before he comes on. I did not get a copy of this yet. I know it just got released recently. But I will be reading this, and I cannot wait to get into this. This is Terry. If you've seen him before on the show, he always leaves his email at the end of his book, asking for people to share their experiences with him. And a lot of them are alien abduction, but some of them fall into Bigfoot or other paranormal phenomenon. And a number of them that he got were near death. And Terry's going to get into that subject tonight, so I can't wait to talk about that. And of course, special World Wide Web of Weird tonight. We are going to get deep into a few things in the UFO field. We're going to get it out of our system because we want to talk about Terry's book. So we got Terry joining us for the World Wide Web of Weird because we're going to talk about a couple things. Number one, the Las Vegas UFO or really alien incident in the backyard. It's a continuing story. We're going to talk about that. I have a beef with the New York Post and their coverage of it. I want to talk about, of course, the continuing whistleblower story going on. There's more he's been telling in different interviews, so it's getting interesting with that. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. I mean, making synthetic human embryos. I'm not going to talk about that tonight. I mean, there's so much weirdness going on. There's stuff over Lake Mead UFO, not far from this UFO incident, but I think they had something on the 12th. I saw another UFO video. Things are getting weird, people. Things are getting strange, but that's great for this show, right? Lots of material. And we'll open up the phone lines later in the show for you to call in, especially if you've had a near-death experience. Share with our guest, Terry Lovelace, tonight. We got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight, our guest is here with us already because I want him to join us. We got to get the alien out. We got to get the alien stuff out of our system this first half hour for the news segment with Terry because we really want to get into his new book, Free Fall. How you doing tonight, Terry? Oh, I got to unmute you. There you go.
I'm great. It's good to be back with you guys.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to having you on. I can't wait to get a copy of this book. I really want to read it. So I can't spoil it for the audience tonight. It's all on you to do because I haven't read it.
Fair enough.
But
My apologies. You know what? I owe you and Whitley Strieber and 4 other people books.
Hey, at least I know if Whitley's hasn't gotten a copy, I don't feel so bad. feel so bad about it.
Did I send you the audiobook?
No.
Oh, God.
No, I don't think so.
I can do that tonight.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
For the audiobook. I'll send you one.
All right, yeah, definitely. I still want to get a copy of the book, though. A copy of the book. I have to have it part of my collection. Joining me, as always, from beautiful California and beautiful herself is Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing good, thank you.
I know you've been excited for the show. You love Terry coming on. You were pumped up today. We got to get the alien out of our system, Jamie, here for the World Wide Web of Weird. And there's so much going on right now in the field, too, so it's going to be hard. How you doing tonight from St. Augustine, Florida? Rob Autry himself.
Doing good.
Glad to have you here. There's a lot of, Rob, we didn't get to pre-test or pre-roll any of the stuff, but there's a lot for the first thing, which is the Las Vegas UFO incident. I think I have 6 or 7 things in there. They'll say Article 1, but they're titled with different things, so hopefully you can flow with me on this. Because there's a lot to get to on this. I don't usually cover something, usually it's 7 articles. Tonight I think it's 4 or 5. It might just be a couple things we're going to get into. Because I really want to get Terry's opinion on this whole case. I want to talk about this. This is the Las Vegas UFO incident. If you haven't heard of it, where have you been? Especially if you're interested in this stuff, I'm sure you've probably heard about it. But we're going to get into that tonight. So let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, we got to get the alien out of our system because we're going to be talking with Terry Lovelace about his new book, Free Fall, An American Near-Death Experience. And near-death is another subject I'm completely interested in, of course. We've covered it several times on the show. First time with Terry. Can't wait to read this book. But there's a lot going on in the alien world, in the UFO world, with this Las Vegas case, the whistleblower. We're going to get into the Las Vegas case first. If you haven't heard, back in May 1st, basically early morning of May 1st, a family called into the police department after a meteor was spotted. It looks like a meteor to me, maybe an alien craft falling, saying 8 to 10 foot tall aliens were in their backyard. Now you know me, and where have you been if you've not heard about this? If I can get my screen to switch. There we go. All right, so let's get this alien out of our system, and this is a good one. This is hard. All right, So yeah, this is going to be the payloader video. Last week I showed the half a second frame basically between the father and Angel's head where you see this long, thin neck alien. You want to show that one to give a little recap of that? That should be, let me pull up my list of stuff. Might just be the alien video. Not that one. Just go back to the regular one. It just says Article 1 Alien Video. I think it's to the right at the top.
Here we go.
Yep. All right, so this is what we showed last week. It was going around. There's a lot of fake ones. So if you see the one that's like all full, like big, and you can see it clearly, and it's by a fence line, it looks like CGI because it is. It's not a part of this case. There's also a doorbell camera one. I don't know the provenance of that camera picture of an alien that looks pretty, you can definitely tell it's an alien. Not associated with this case, I don't think. Only thing I'm going to be interested in is this video here where all this stuff comes from. Go ahead and play. This is what we played last week. So like it's like a half a second between their heads. You see this tall, slender neck, big head thing, and it glows for most half of its body, but it's like the other half is like pure black, like it's in a cloaked suit. See that? Now, Doug Papa anybody, if you haven't heard the story, I highly recommend find Doug Papa on YouTube. He's the original journalist that started covering this weeks ago before it ever hit the news market. He's done a great job. He's talked to this family. He's interviewed Angel a couple times now. So we got this video. And before I get to the next, I want to talk about this New York Post article or video I saw that was very sleazily done, in my opinion. All right, can you find the New York Post article photo? So people, or it's an article, it's a video that they post just to show people what I'm talking about here. It should say New York Post article 1 New York Post, I think. Yeah. Yeah, so there's this video out, Autopsy of an Alien Hoax, Las Vegas UFO Sighting Explained. This guy's very cynical, sarcastic, and just being a jerk. And okay, so a couple of things that have fallen apart in this story is the ring on the impression in the ground. Sleuths have found at Google Earth that's been there for a year. But if you remember, and if you listen to the interview, Angel doesn't say they pointed that out. The cops pointed that out to them the night of it happening. And then Angel took a picture of it after the cops pointed it out, and he put it in his video about the impression. And then people are like, well, it's been on Google Earth for a year, so it's a hoax, right? No. The cops put that in his head. The cops also tell him, if you listen to the Doug Papa podcast interview of Angel, Angel says the cops came back later after talking to the owner of the property, because these people don't own the property, that the security camera that would have been filming that spot that the owner owned blanked out for the time period that this thing would have been craft or whatever was happening there landed. And then when it came back on the camera, there was nothing there, but that impression was there, and it wasn't there before. That's Angel's story. Maybe he's lying. Maybe that's not what the cops told him, or maybe that is what the cops told him, and that's what put it in his head. Maybe the cops are seeing what they want to see. Speaking of the cops, a lot of you have seen the body cam footage. We can't show all this stuff. I don't have time for that. There's body cam footage. I have some of it here, and the New York Post pulls this apart. Now, if you go and find Article 1 body cam footage. All right, so before you hit play, New York Post shows the father when they're asking, he says, the father says he sees the aliens, but here we go. The father says, no, I didn't see that. Contradictory. And then he goes, the mother says that she saw the aliens. And then you hear her say, no, I didn't see him in this body cam footage. Contradictory. Well, if you listen to the interview from Doug Papa and this body cam footage, if you listen to what's going on right there, the cop is talking and the father's talking about the thing coming down. If you listen to the interview, the father didn't see that. The two brothers did. They're talking about the ship. And the father's saying, no, I didn't see it. The two boys did. He's not talking about the 10-foot beams. And when he walks up to the mother, he starts talking about the 10-foot beams. She says, no, I didn't see it, which they never said the mom did. But she starts talking, if you listen, about her iPhone, that I was trying to film it. I was trying to see it. I wanted to see it. And that collaborates with their video, the family's video, because it's the mom filming it. Go ahead and play.
Anything land in your backyard? Or
They see like a big.
See?
They see like a big.
anything land in your backyard? Or
They see like a big. That's what they say. They see like a big.
He's talking about the ship, not the 10-foot beans. But New York Post edits that and makes it look like he's saying no to the 10-foot beans. And then this is what they use for the mom.
did you see it? No. Did you see it? No. I'm kind of curious now. I want to know if there's aliens.
I was with the iPhone. I say, I want to record something.
See, she's trying to tell him, well, I was trying to see it. And that matches with the video.
iPhone. I say, I want to record something.
All right, let's move on to what these people actually saw. Now I've shown last week, and it's in the other video. We don't have to get into it. There's now multiple. Go ahead and stop this one. There's now multiple angles from doorbell cameras and other surveillance cameras of what I do looks like. I've seen meteors fall. It looks just like this: a meteor falling. Does that discount what happened to these people? No, it doesn't, because there's one really good YouTuber I just started following who's been documenting, and I wouldn't get her name, her channel. What was her name? God, I was watching her videos. She's been documenting another family who's been going through something really similar, and I want her name. Dang it, I lost it. I had it. I lost it. I had her name and everything in my notes, and I must have lost it. Darn it. There's a really good YouTuber. She's doing videos on this family who's going through something really similar, and they're seeing meteors. I think the family was, what'd she say, Ohio maybe? But they're going through something similar like this family, and they're being abducted. Now, Terry, in this interview, one of the things this kid, we're going to get into what they're seeing here in a second. This kid says, description of what he says he sees two beings, and of course New York Post goes, oh, but then he says he hears multiple footsteps running around. They're just taking pieces of his story, not the timeline right. He says when he sees actual beings after this thing comes down that they can't see the ship. They can't see the ship. It's blurry. Like they can't look at it. Like their vision goes blurry every time they try to look at whatever's out there. But they can see a being 8 to 10 feet tall run away from it. That's what he says in the interview. He says the legs are a bit little bit bent, and it's 8 to 10 feet tall. At one point, he says he thought it had eyelashes. And Jamie hears in the 9/11 call, I think you were pointing out, that he also says eyelashes and a big mouth.
Big mouth, yeah.
But then he turns back and just talks about the eyes. Like he's trying to gather what he experiences. Because what he says, when this thing comes down, him and his brother working on a car, they see a little bright greenish, bluish light and multiple lights and then sparks and a big whoosh. And it was an out-of-body experience is what he said. Okay? When he looks at this thing in its eyes, he says first he sees eyelashes and then the eyes actually start to be like a neonish glow. And he freezes. He can't move. What does that sound like to you, Terry?
Sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm. And he talks about this, like his legs not being able to move. I think what we need is, Doug Papa's doing great trying to interview him. This kid's kind of all over the place. What we need is a time-by-time line to really sit this kid down, really get the timeline, because he's trying to figure it out.
Is Doug Papa the guy that was on News Nation?
Yes.
Okay.
Former police officer.
He did a great job.
I don't trust much of anything you're seeing on the internet about this. If you really want to get into this case, Doug Papa. I highly recommend his YouTube channel and his investigation of this. He's talked to the family. He's been on the location, the site. And yes, there's some things that they were focusing in on, like the circle that's been debunked. Doesn't mean this isn't a true experience. Doesn't mean these people didn't experience it. And now there's the police body cam footage everybody's talking about. That's 16 minutes of redacted footage, Terry. Have you seen the body cam footage?
I have.
So
Several times.
You saw some of it here. There's more. Okay, so the part, right when they're walking around the corners where it gets redacted when they go in the backyard. The police say because, and Doug Papa really makes a good point about this being a former law enforcement officer, the police say it's because it's private property. Well, we've all seen enough cops and different shows to know that's not how that works. Oh. If there's something that they don't show, Doug Papa pointed this out, if there's something they don't want you to see, they'll blur it out, but you still hear the audio.
I agree.
Why don't we hear the audio if they don't want us to see the backyard? When those officers are done, they're excited when they walk up. I'll admit that. They seem like, well, you see, they're a little bit excited. When they walk, I should have put the video in after they walk out, after the video footage comes back. They're very excited for police officers. They are literally waving people down on the street and asking them if they saw anything. You can hear the excitement. He tells the kid, don't call us if the 8, 10-foot beings come back.
You know, Angel really struck me as a straightforward, honest kid. He did not seem like he was making up a story. And that kid was scared. And I don't
see, people are like, well, he sounds, what do you think about the people that are arguing, Terry, that he sounds too calm in the phone call to the 911 dispatcher? That's one of the arguments that they bring up.
I think that's ridiculous.
Thank you.
I think he sounds scared. If you look closely, you can see he has a firearm on his right side.
I think that's his brother. Well, his father has one, and then his younger brother is carrying one. And he's a minor.
All three have one.
Angel might have had one too. I think he did. Yeah. I think all three of them did.
Hey, when there's aliens in the backyard, you know, what's the law?
That's a true reaction to me, though.
Exactly.
People are like, why didn't they take more pictures? Why didn't they go up there and like videotape this thing, get it to pose Vogue for them? You know, the reason is because they're scared for their lives. Watch the video. And that's the other problem I have with the New York Post video. They don't do what we're about to do, is actually look at the damn video these people put up. Now, there are people are finding, this is just one part of it. There are, I showed last week, you know, the alien there. There's an alien by the fence. You see like its hands go through and it moves. So something's like right next to them. They don't even notice. I haven't played that yet. We're not going to have that one tonight. There's another one where you see it kind of peek out. This is the one of my favorites, though, because of his description. He says he saw two of these things and they had neon light, or they had like neon glowing eyes. And then when his mother and father are looking at this thing, I don't know. They're not speaking Spanish, I don't think. It's some other dialect. I don't know. I had my friend from Mexico listen to it and a coworker, and they're like, it's not, I don't know what they're saying. And they both speak fluent, you know, so I don't know what they're internationally. It doesn't really matter what their internationally is. I wish I could hear what they were saying. But they are focusing in on these payloaders, and they see something. This is the only story we're going to get to cover. We're just too much. Go ahead and play this. I'd like to get into the David Gersh thing, but this is too good. All right, so this is a different video. This is one where something's peeking out. I don't know about this one so much. So they see something off to the right, maybe peeking out. The good one is the other video, which is going to be where is it? It's Aliens latest in Payloader. Should some of the Payloader. Maybe that body cam footage. Oh no. Yeah, that should be it. This should be it. All right, so the mom and the dad are trying to look through it. Remember he says these scenes were, remember I talked about how it looked like it had like a cloaking, half the body wasn't seen because it's twitched back like it has a cloaking uniform. This looks like they're in cloaking uniforms in this one. And there's somebody who did really good video footage of this where they really filtered it. And this is mine because I wanted to verify what they were showing, so I did my own. All right, so you can see there's one head there with glowing eyes. There's another one to the left you can barely see with a glowing eye. And then there's one back there a little bit back to his right that is also head and eyes and glowing. You really have to watch this video and zoom in. I zoom in more. I do a filter. I have a picker screenshot of the other guy zoom in of this. He really gets a good shot of one of these things, and it's undeniable. We're going to get to that in a second. But I don't know. Can you see it, Terry?
I can.
I know it's hard.
And I've seen this before.
Is this your personal? You've seen because we're talking to Terry Lovelace. For people who aren't familiar, just joining us for the first time ever, you have to be. Terry Lovelace is seeing these things up close and personal.
Yeah, he's peeking out of the lower left corner of the window.
There's so much to we're going to be out of time here in 5 minutes. There's so much to the story. I knew it was going to take up the whole thing. Here's my zoom in, so you can see the head. See the eye? There's one to the left, and then there's one to the right. I get a good zoom in on the one to the right, and I try to screen capture that, and that'll come up here in a second. But the guy gets another better one of the one on the right, really good. But this is what they're looking at. The father and mother the mother can't see it. The father's trying to tell her, I think. Like they're there. He can see them. But these scenes are shadowed. And you want to know the interesting thing is? So this happens before the cops come. The cops are probably coming about 30 minutes after this event. Cops go in the backyard. 16 minutes of what we don't know what happens. But whatever happens excited those cops. You know what? The family went back inside after the cops left, prayed. Angel says they hear a weird scream as they pray, and then they hear footsteps on the roof. So these things are still there. They were there when the cops were there. And I think the cops could feel it. Obviously, here's a really good look. You can see that one's head turned. You see how the one on the right's head turns? You see his eyes kind of flash? I get a really good screenshot. You can see the shape and face, the typical gray shape and everything. You see him? I'm going to get a screenshot of that. It should come up here in a second. Yeah. It's really blurry because I don't have the greatest video editing software. It's literally iMovie. There, see it? You see it turn? You see both its eyes and the chin and the big head like the alien? Like I said, I screenshot it here. To me, this is the best out of all the stuff people are picking apart. From the video, I think this is the best footage. There's my screenshot. Can you see the shape, the head, the eyes? I know it's really blurry. Here's the other guys. Look at that one. Look at that one.
That's great.
And the shine, I think, is night vision. They've talked about alien autopsies where they took out these lenses out of their eyes, and that's where we got night vision technology. Lieutenant Colonel Corso, remember those interviews back in the day?
Yeah.
Art Bell shout out. But this to me is why I believe in this family. Why would they hoax this? I mean, Terry, I don't know what your opinion is on this, but why would you let your 16-year-old son call the cops? How would they have timed it with a meteor falling? And people are like, it's a meteor. I get it. I think it is a meteor too. But there's a lot of cases involving with UFOs and meteors. I wish I could find this YouTuber. I'm so sorry. I had her name lined up on my YouTube thing. I wanted to give the YouTube channel, and now it's like it's out of my library, and it should be here because I watched her videos today. She's documenting another family, and she shows the video from those families, them seeing same kind of meteors in their sky. Maybe these aliens were chasing a meteor down. They have an interest in meteors. Meteors could carry diseases, ancient life. Maybe they were interested in the meteor.
I've always wondered, I mean, if they're here, they're obviously more advanced than we are. But, why does so many seem to crash?
And New York Post also says this whole thing's not legit because George Knapp works for the Channel 8 Las Vegas News, and they're the first to cover it, and that's obviously why it's fake, because it's a ufologist involved.
Yep, because that makes
Like, you're talking about the most famous of one of the ufologists out there that has done a lot of great work. I've never seen him involved in something that he knowingly knew was a hoax. Never seen that proven about George Knapp. I think George Knapp is awesome. Sorry. So you don't get me with that New York Post, your sleazy video. I call it sleazy because it's just lazy journalism.
Did you see the Wikipedia article?
No, they got a Wikipedia on this already.
Oh, terrible. Terrible.
That's what's going to happen, Terry. Don't you think it's going to be like Travis Walton?
Yes, I do.
We're going to be talking about this 30 years later. Yeah. Travis Walton didn't have video back then, though.
Yeah.
These people do, and that shows these beings. If this was a fake, if they were faking this, why wouldn't they do a better shot than me having to zoom in and really filter it to find these little guys? Or big guys. Some of them are big. This guy could be big because he's outside the payloader, or front loader, wherever it is. And he's right up there with it, so maybe he is 8 or 10 feet tall. But I think they're seeing little guys because they hear he says contradictory on the New York Post because he says there's two beings, but he hears a bunch of footsteps, like a bunch of pitter patter of feet, because there's two big beings, right, Terry? You've experienced this, and a bunch of little ones. I think these people are going through an abduction experience, and it's just blown open for them.
I think that's very likely.
I think that's why they can't comprehend, and their story's kind of awkward for them to talk about because they still can't comprehend the things that happen to them.
Well, the Post takes things out of time, like the footsteps on the roof. Angel's not trying to connect that to the point in time when he's witnessing this. They're two separate events.
We got to go to commercial break. The last thing I'll say, and we didn't even get into the David Gersh and the whistleblower thing. That's a huge thing too, but this has taken up the cycle. I think this is important because I believe this family, and I was really pissed off when I saw the New York Post thing. Maybe I'm a fool for believing them. I don't think I am, because things don't add up for me that this would be a hoax. I don't think they're embellishing. I think they're just not understanding what the events that happened to them. They're trying to reconcile this. When people are experiencing this up close with them, one person could be completely paralyzed and have no memory of the events that are happening around them while the other two are witnessing it. So it makes it hard, like, did you see that? No, but you were standing right there. Like these things, they could be all trying to figure out what happened. Either way, the family never went missing. They've been in homes, scared to death because people have been jerks to them online. They've had, and George Knapp's or News Nation, whatever, somebody had one of the people up, and he's like, "Oh, I was driving the black SUV." Yeah, after June 7th, after you went to go check out this family, they talked about this happening with government plates back in May when nobody was interested in this. So that does not explain that away either. There's so much. I can't get into it. We got Terry tonight. Free fall, an American near-death experience. We're going to get into that tonight. We'll open up the phone lines later. If you've had a near-death experience, call in. Let's talk about it tonight. I know some of you are going to be tempted to call in about the Las Vegas scene and the alien scene. I want to keep the focus on free fall. You can call in, but remember, we're talking about near-death experiences, which I think, we talk about Whitley Strieber, we talk about the late John Lear. I always loved their conversations and their idea about the aliens having something to do with the afterlife and people's experiences with that. Whitley Strieber, big time. If you ever listen to him and talk, especially with his wife passing, that they have a big connection to the afterlife. We can get into that a little bit, maybe too. I don't know, but we really want to focus on these people's experience in the book Free Fall, an American Near-Death Experience, when we come back from the short commercial break with our guest Terry Lovelace.
us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do voices from beyond the cold case files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It is called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Certificate A. Now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The international chart-topping Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real, a must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, the true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Terry Lovelace. You remember, if you've been watching this show for the last 7 years, we've had Terry on several times. He is the author of Incident at Devil's Den, about his harrowing experience with contact with ETs in Devil's Den, Arkansas, back in the 1970s. I'm sorry, Terry, forgot the date at the moment, but is truly one of my all-time favorite books I've ever read. It really impacted me on my own experiences. He also wrote Devil's Den, The Reckoning, revisiting more on this, and from the emails that he received from the first book, talking about others' experiences. And now that's led him into his newest book we're going to be talking tonight about, Freefall, an American near-death experience. He's had people email him about a lot of stuff. Me and Terry have had email correspondences, and he's helped me with my experiences. He's a truly gentle, kind soul, and I can see why so many people reach out to him. He does his best to talk and help others. And he talked to two women who had near-death experiences that we're going to delve into. These, we've had guests on this topic, but I think Terry's going to take a very interesting take on this and these women's experience. I haven't read the book, but I've been really dying to, because me and Terry have had discussions about near-death personally, and I think sometimes on the show we've gotten into it, usually in the alien realm. Well, this is more on the spiritual realm tonight, and I can't wait to get into it. Please call in later in the show after the next commercial break. If you've had a near-death experience, share your experience, join the conversation. But let's go ahead and get to our guest. Thank you for joining us tonight, Terry. It is an honor to have you back on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And, like I said, this is the first time I've ever had on. I haven't read your book before you had on. So it's going to be, I'll be just like the audience, getting to learn, what this is about. I've seen your description about it, about two women who emailed you. As we talked about on the show before, you have your email at the end of your books, telling people they can reach out with their experiences. And you've gotten a lot beyond just the alien abduction or UFO experiences from people, correct?
I'm just about at 4,000 emails.
Wow.
Total. And I've got emails from people who saw Bigfoot, who, obviously had abduction, UFO experiences, ghosts, EVPs. I mean, just a grab bag of everything. But in 2020 and 2021, I got exactly 4 emails from people who had near-death experiences, and they wanted to tell me about them. Now, these 4 people are not known to one another. They're from different parts of the country. Right. And when I get information like this, I like to graph it all out and look for commonalities. So, I do a spreadsheet. And dig this. This is the demographics of these 4 people. 3 of the 4 were physicians. The 4th was a marketing guy from New York City. 3 were women. 1 identified as Christian, 1 was a Roman Catholic, 1 was a self-described agnostic, and 1 was a Buddhist.
So that's a pretty good take there.
Yeah. All were from different geographical locations: Utah, New York, Florida, and
America. America.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. They're different backgrounds, but in the same kind of cultural melting pot.
Yeah. Their experiences. There's so much commonality in the experiences. People come back from this. It's really a transformative journey. I didn't realize. I didn't know much about the topic until these people wrote to me, and I had a good dialogue with the girl, the one Susie. But this is actually based. It's kind of a compilation of the experiences of Susie Kwan.
Yeah.
And another woman who asked me to refer to her as Virginia. She's the radiologist from New York. And her near-death experience, I'll tell you hers real quick before I get to Susie's. But
okay.
Let me finish these commonalities.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
1 passed away by drowning, 1 died in an automobile accident, 1 attempted suicide, and 1 coded while on the operating room.
Oh, wow.
All 4 were dead for between 4 and 30 minutes. And by dead, I mean they didn't have independent respiration and a heartbeat.
Right.
They were all welcomed by an entity described as Jesus, an angelic being, a paternal grandparent, and a monk. So it seems like, the greeting that you get on the other side is tailor-made for your experience.
Yeah.
And, I found out this is not
Can
just
I
the
ask,
United States.
as the agnostic, can I ask what was the person that met the agnostic?
The agnostic was the third physician, not the one that I spoke about.
Yeah.
And she was also a woman. 3 were women, 3 were physicians. And she had a really strange experience. She was more siding with being an atheist than anything.
That's what I'm really interested in like what an agnostic or atheist sees. Because I've always loved the movie What Dreams May Come. You remember that movie? And it's like you build your own kind of afterlife, whatever. Well, what happens to the agnostics? Like, like I believe in an afterlife, spirituality, but I question what it is and everything, and don't belong to a certain religion. So what do I meet?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. They've all come back from this experience with kind of a disdain for organized religion.
Mm-hmm.
They all describe themselves as very spiritual people, very ethical people. But it changed the trajectory of all 4 of these people. It changed their lives in a whole lot of ways. Susie, the main person the book revolves around, was born with some psychic abilities. When she was a kid, she saw spirits. She described orbs like ping pong balls.
Yeah.
That used to go through her room.
Oh wow.
And she had a lot of experiences. This is where the title Free Fall comes from.
Right.
She had a dispute. She had a beef with this girl from kindergarten. And they go to the same school. And she's 14 years old. It's 1989. And she's walking around the pool. And she's got her headphones on and her Sony Walkman, right? And this girl, her nemesis, runs up behind her, takes the palm of her right hand and hits her on the shoulder. And she was walking right by the edge of the pool and knocks her into 10 feet of water.
Jerk move.
Yeah. I mean, she was a good swimmer, but she hadn't been in the water that day. And, she opened her mouth.
Shock of hitting it and unexpectedness.
Yeah.
So she swallowed all the water?
Oh, yeah. Swallowed water, inhaled water. She had terrible pneumonia. I didn't really go into that, but
yeah.
She was listening to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers song "Free Fallin'."
Free Fallin'.
Is that great?
Yeah.
Great timing.
What was it like for her? Like time slowed in that moment?
Yeah. She popped out of her body and remembers being able. What she did was she was panicked, and thought, "Oh my God, I'm gonna die," and freaking out, and doing all these moving, trying to get her wits about her, and she doesn't even know which way is up. She heard a voice say, "Susie, just let go." And she said, "Like hell." And then she said, "I did." And as soon as I did, that's when she popped out of her body. And she said her vantage point was about 20 feet over the pool.
Right.
And she could hear and see, and she saw her, her fractured body on the hot pavement next to the pool. And her good fortune, there happened to be a cardiac surgeon, and the lifeguard was trained in CPR. Cardiac surgeon was there with his 4 kids. So she gets CPR right away, which really, really helps your chances of surviving. Right. And ambulance comes. They load her into the ambulance. From her vantage point up above, she sees on top of this white ambulance, and the ambulance is 7 foot tall. You would have to be all over the thing to see this. There is an Arabic numeral 7 in red paint painted on top of the ambulance. So when she got to the hospital, they resuscitated, they restarted her heart with a defibrillator. It took 3 shots. And she was sick, but she made it. And she asked her emergency room physician. Her mother was actually a physician at this hospital.
Oh, wow.
So she asked this emergency room physician, she said, Dr. Momond, is there an Arabic numeral 7 painted in red paint on top of the ambulance that brought me here? And he says, I don't know, but I'll find out.
Yeah.
And he walks over and he looks outside the window. I think she's on the 5th floor. And the ambulance bay is on the other side of the building.
So she couldn't see it.
She didn't see it.
But she's still in bed too, probably. I mean,
She's
this
still
is
in
right
bed. She's
right.
sick.
That's
IVs
really
and
stretching
stuff.
it.
So he comes back.
How long
the
was
next
she?
day.
How long
Go
was
ahead.
she actually dead for?
32 minutes, I think.
That's pretty bad. That's a pretty long time.
Really long. Really long.
Somebody brought up the movie Flatliners. They were like doing what? 15 minutes. They were like daring each other, because they didn't want to be brain damaged. Come out, like it can be bad. You don't recommend near-death experiences for anyone.
Absolutely. 1990s. I remember that movie. 1990, I think. Yeah.
So the number was on the ambulance?
Yes, the doctor came in and says, Susie, you came in unit number 7. All of the ambulances are numerically sequenced. There's a big number on top of every one of them. In case of the mass casualty kind of thing, they're having multiple ambulances going to and fro. They can identify which ambulance is which.
Yeah.
So
she wouldn't have even known that.
No,
she had no way to know that.
So
So
I've heard countless stories of that where the person dies. Like I think there was one where they could see a shoe was up behind something, and the doctor actually went up there and found it, and he's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a famous story. Dr. Momon bought her a book, and Susie requested, we talked about collaborating on writing a book, and I wanted to do it jointly with the two of us. And she was all for that in the beginning, but she had some issues with her job and other things that made it just not the right time for her to do that. And so we didn't do that, but she insisted that I read Raymond Moody's book, Life After Life.
Yeah.
So I hadn't read it yet. I got a copy, I read it, and I was just blown away. It's just incredible.
So it sounds like, like her doctor, at least the doctor that went and checked into this, was open to the idea.
Oh, he was more than that. He gave her a really worn copy of Life After Life.
Yeah.
And there were little notes in it. And he said, read this, make some notes if you want, and get it back to me. Because I'm going to give it to the next person that needs it.
Yeah.
And
I'd love to have a copy of that book. He said, so he's given it to patients that have this experience, and you can make notes in it, he tells them, and you can just give it back. What a genius.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I started doing research on this. And there's this long list of physicians. Like, have you heard of Eben Alexander?
Sounds familiar.
He was a Harvard, he taught at Harvard. He taught neurosurgery at Harvard.
It sounds familiar.
And 15 years ago or something, he came down with a really, really bad case of meningitis.
Yeah.
And was in a coma for a week. And they gave he was on life support. They gave his odds of him surviving from 2% down to 1%. And they were going to have a discussion the next day about taking him off the respirator. And that's when he started to come back. He opened his eyes. His experience, he went to the other side and saw this beautiful woman, beautiful blonde woman. And he's holding on to the wings of this giant butterfly. I know, sounds a bit odd. And this girl is right next to him. And they're flying, and he has the sensation of flying. And he's looking at her, and she's looking at him, and they're smiling and nodding at one another.
Yeah.
So after he recovers, he was adopted and never knew his birth parents. When he came back, it was important to him to know his birth parents. So he was able to do that. He found his birth parents, went over to their home, said, hi, how you doing? I'm your son. Had a big kind of reunion, a dinner. And he's looking at the wall. There's pictures of relatives on the wall. And he said, I know that blonde. I know that girl. that was his younger sister that died in a car accident like 4 years earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a cool story. You don't make stuff
Yeah.
up like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's the reason I love covering near-death experiences because it's our closest. Why I love the movie Flatliners. Yeah, it's our closest glimpse of the idea what is beyond something we all are going to face, and it's interesting to me today with your kind of your four-person pool of people, their backgrounds, their different backgrounds, because what are they going to see when they get to the other side? They believe in different things. What was Susie's belief, or what was she brought up?
Susie, now she was born in she was born in the United States. Her parents were Chinese. They immigrated to Taiwan, and then from Taiwan they got jobs at forget the name of the hospital in Topeka, Kansas.
Yeah.
So they're both working at this hospital, and that's where she was born. She was born in America, and English was her primary language, and Mandarin was her what she called her house language, home language. And where was I going with this?
Oh, her background, religious.
Oh yeah, yeah. Her background was she was raised as a Buddhist, and she met like neighborhood kids that were Christian, and she's like, "Mom, why don't we go to church?" And she says, "Well, because we're Buddhists. We go to temple, and they go to church." And she always loved going to the temple because it was just a beautiful place. When she goes to the other side, it's like she blinks and opens her eyes, and she's in this lush tropical jungle with bird song all over the place, butterflies, insects, grass, and says that, a lot of people say the same thing. She felt this connectivity. She felt connected to everything, to each blade of grass, each insect.
Yeah.
She felt like she was a part of this greater thing. And waiting for her there was a Buddhist monk in red robes. And he greeted her and said, "Hi, Susie." And he held her hand, and they walked over to a wooden bench that was right by this koi pond that had really cool fish in it. And they're sitting there. And she says, and we had the most wonderful conversation. And in her mind, it's like she spent a month over there.
Yes, I've heard this before.
And she says that this monk answered all of her questions and told her all the secrets of life, and then said, "Well, you're not going to remember most of this when you go back." And that's when she said, "What do you mean go back? I'm not going back. I'm staying here." She met her deceased father. When she was aged 8 years earlier, when she was age 6, her dad, who was a surgeon, was at the ATM, and this was early, 1970 or 1981, I guess.
That'd be like the beginning of ATMs. Like
it was at the beginning of ATMs, and Silver Lake Bank is the bank that they used, and they just put in an ATM. And Dad was on his way home from the hospital. He was 4 minutes from the house. Walked up to the hospital. Of course, you know what happens. He takes out $200, which was the max, and he's getting ready to put it in his wallet. And the guy walks up and puts a revolver right to the back of his head and said, "Give me your wallet, the money, and give me your watch." And he handed his wallet and his money. And the cops kind of recreated this because they found a withdrawal slip that had a partial fingerprint on it. And years later, they found the guy.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it is good.
Good.
But anyway, he killed her dad.
For $200. What the?
For $200. People, And when she's on the other side, she said that this beautiful, lush, tropical jungle is separated by this veil or wall of fog, like a thick fog.
Really?
And she said that she knew intuitively that if she went on through the mist, through the fog, and walked to the other side, she would never come back out. And I said, "How did you know that?" She said, "Well, I don't know how I knew, but I knew that. I knew that with certainty. Her dad walks out of the mist, and she says, "I don't know how we managed it," because she said I wasn't in a physical body, but she said we embraced, and I got to hug him, and she said, this blew me away. He even smelled like my daddy, and he looked younger than she remembered him. His hair was not gray, or didn't have any gray in it, he said, and he looked, he was wearing his favorite golf outfit. And he said he just looked great. He just looked radiant. And they exchanged I love yous. And he said, Susie, you're going to have to go back. And she said, but why? I don't want to go back. I want to stay here with you and Grandma. And he says, no, I'm sorry, hon, you have to go back. And he stepped back behind the fog and was gone. So how wild is that?
I've heard the fog interests me a lot because, one, I don't think you have to die to have these experiences. I've had some weird experiences where I think I've seen the other side. And a lot of times there's this fog that I know not to go into. And I've had some very vivid dreams before where I've seen, one, my grandmother, and two, another, like a very like Mother Teresa, like Virgin Mary, like entity, a female entity. And she comes out of this fog, and I'm surrounded by a fog. Wow. And I've had that a few times, and it's always highly emotional, and I feel like I'm getting all this information, and when I come back, it's like it's gone. I can't grasp what she's trying to tell me.
Evaporates like a dream. Yeah.
Maybe it is a dream for me. I didn't die, but...
Yeah, but you're right.
When I hear these experiences, those dreams come back to me.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you're right. You don't have to die to have one of these experiences. You can just have a close call and have,
Well, you hear one of the things I always find interesting, and I have to say kind of comforting in the near-death experiences. I feel bad when I forget guest names because I've had so many on for near-death experiences. And there was one, I can't think of his name, but literally he was pulled out of his body right before the car crashed. So literally he's pulled out before any body damage or pain or anything. And I've heard other experiences like that, and that I think it's comforting maybe to those who've lost somebody to hear that's died in some kind of violent, tragic way, to hope that maybe a guardian angel or something pulled them out, that they didn't experience or suffer the real pain, maybe.
Well, Virginia, the other half of my book, is 62 years old now. When she was 19, she was in a car with her fiance. Fiance's in the back. She's sitting in the passenger seat because he's had too much to drink at dinner, and their friend is driving. So the guy driving is stone cold sober. And they were in a crossover accident and had a head-on crash. And she said there were airbags that, from the side, but because she was in the back seat, she really didn't have a lot of protection. And but she lived, and the other two people died. But she said that she has no memory of the accident whatsoever. But she remembers waking up, like opening her eyes and drifting out of her body and looking down at this wrecked BMW. And because of the roof, she can't see herself, but she knows she's in there.
Yeah.
And she's suddenly with her fiance and the friend who was driving. And the three of them held hands and went up together. And they're both in this like tunnel thing going up faster and faster. And her fiance and the friend let go of her hand, and they said, "We're sorry, but you're going to have to go back, but we'll see you soon." And they went up, and she went back down.
Wow.
And found herself in her body. Yeah, it's called a shared near-death experience.
Right. I was just going to say that.
And you don't even have to die to have it. I mean, people that are with someone while they pass sometimes report having the same experience.
They'll be like even separated by distance, and then somebody will be hit with a sudden, they're there with that person and be there experiencing that person's death.
Yes. So this woman, Virginia, when she came back, again, she's 19 years old, and she was planning on going to medical school anyway. But she was never a classical music fan. You know, she says, I describe myself as a what do you call old? Anyway, she liked older rock and roll.
No,
music.
classic rock.
Yeah. She comes back and has a sudden interest in the Spanish 12-string guitar. Now, she's never touched one in her life, but she goes and she buys one and arranges to take lessons and takes to it like crazy.
Wow.
And in no time, she's playing this thing like she grew up with it. And I just thought that was amazing.
See, I always wonder in those instances, because she's not the only one that's had a near-death experience and comes back and becomes like an idiot savant at something like that, that it might be, because we talk about past lives on the show all the time, and higher self. It's like, so when she connected to that higher self on the other side, her higher self, she's connecting with all those other past incarnations, and she's picking up some of that and bringing it back. She's been cut off from it since her birth, and it's like getting it back for a moment, and she carried some of that. That's what I always wonder. What did she see when she passed, besides seeing the car, just the tunnel, and the boy doesn't remember anything else?
She didn't get anywhere because
else. But maybe it's just that tunnel of light. She's connecting with her higher self, being out of her body.
Yeah. And she said it was a very spiritual, very moving, life-transforming event. And, she came back. She says, when I came back, she said, I wanted to go to medical school still, and I did well in school. But she said, I wasn't as interested in making the money as I was helping people. And she devotes 6 weeks of her summer. I don't know how you do that. 6 weeks of her summer, she spends with an organization called Doctors Without Borders.
Oh, yeah.
And she goes to all these third world countries, like Syria and places where it's it's dangerous and
very dangerous,
and gives free medicine to people. It's great.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it seems. I mean, if you have a near-death experience and come back with having an experience, it seems it does change pretty much everyone. I haven't heard the story yet. It's like, it was nothing. Like moving on. Yeah, it was an experience. No, it radically will change your life. Somebody pointed out, Alan in the chat said another show where people are like pulled out of their bodies is Dead Like Me. That was one of Art Bell's favorite shows, and I loved that show. Remember Dead Like Me?
I do.
It only had one season because like the main character, like she just sees a toilet from the sky, a toilet seat from the sky coming at her. She's like, "Oh, bleep," and she's out. They're like, she doesn't get pain or whatever, gets smashed or killed by it, she doesn't see it. The Reapers pull her out, and then she becomes a Reaper and has to do it. It's a great show. Only has one season, but it's still worth a watch if you love.
I thought it was clever. Yeah. Oh, what I was going to mention too is how many abductees, people that have had interaction with UFOs, had that experience, and then afterward report some psychic ability. Or, maybe not even to the level of calling it psychic ability. Susie calls hers heightened intuition. She said, that's what I got. But Virginia said she has the same thing. And the other lady said she has the same thing.
Lots of abductees start to have extrasensory perception, or different abilities sometimes that come out after their experience. Yes, that's definitely a big one. And what Jamie?
And with the NDEs, I've noticed a lot of that.
Yeah, NDEs and alien abductions definitely share that. Because it's really about, they're both spiritual experiences. I mean, yes, they can be very negative in the alien abduction experience, but actually they can be more in the rare times. But there are people who have NDEs that are very negative sometimes too, where they see hell or whatever. But they seem to serve their purpose. It changes people's lives still. And it's what they needed to see, I guess. I don't still believe in a real hell. I hope maybe there is. I think there's lower places. Maybe people are stuck. That's why I always refer back to what dreams may come. Because I don't believe people who commit suicide go to hell. You know, I don't believe that. I don't believe in a God or a thing that punishes people. You know, I just, from my experience, I mean, I don't belong to any religion except for Jediism, the Force. You know, but I think people make their afterlife is what I feel like it is.
I agree.
That's what I thought. I love that movie because that's basically what that movie's premise is. And then it gets right into suicide. The woman who committed suicide is in hell, but it's of her own making.
Yeah, well, the lady that committed suicide said that she popped out of her body and had the same kind of journey. But she said she knew at a deep level that she messed up, that this was wrong.
Yeah.
But she said it was a non-judgmental experience. Nobody chewed me out. Nobody said,
exactly,
you know, what are you, crazy? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Throwing your life away? No, none of that. She got nothing but love and support on the other side. So,
see, my big thing is I call it the Force. I believe in a higher power because my shadow person experience I've told you about, we discussed. When I was saved that night, when I called out to God in my mind, I couldn't talk. I was paralyzed. I felt that what you just said right there, that no judgment, just overwhelming compassion and love, and no judgment. Like, I have your back. There's no judgment on you on this or anything. And it's an overwhelming feeling. I it's the most peaceful feeling I've ever felt.
Yeah, they said the same thing.
That's how mine felt. It was like I came back because it was Mother's Day.
Your near-death experience.
I really wanted to go because I got to that point of just, you knew it was no fighting it and you kind of had to surrender. And I was so comfortable. It felt like the fog is a great description because people talk about like a tunnel of light, but it wasn't like that. It was like almost like something enveloping your whole body. And it's like the biggest, most loving calmness feeling ever. But it was Mother's Day and I did not want my mom to be stuck with that memory. So I remember just fighting and, not wanting to go in because when she mentions just kind of knowing once you go, you're not coming back. It's just like a feeling that you have, you just know that you can't continue.
On the other side of the veil, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I hate making Jamie retell that story because I know it's hard. It's very brutal what you went through, and I appreciate every time you do shares from it because I know it's hard.
I've never had a near-death experience, but I almost walk away from this wishing I have.
I don't think you need to. You've had enough experience.
I've had plenty.
What I'm saying?
What's the rush? I mean, I think we're all going to have one someday.
But you don't have to die. I really want to point that you don't have to die to have these experiences. I don't believe that. I've had of course, my closest thing to feeling that was being attacked by like what some people would say is demonic. I feel was interdimensional alien. I don't know, parasitic. I don't know. It fed off my fear or whatever. But what I experienced changed me completely. I didn't see gates or heaven. I didn't die, but I felt the overwhelming power of a higher power. Like I felt the overwhelming love and understanding and compassion. And knowing I'm never alone, that moment of peace, like everything's all right.
Yeah.
Like a total letting go.
Yeah. She describes that all her life, since she was a little girl, she would see a particular white orb that would come through the wall in the back of the head of her bed and stop right in the middle of the room. And she knew it was her grandmother. She saw these orbs, and she's still.
This is Susie?
Susie, yeah.
Yeah.
And she said, I knew that these were people.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting.
Well, I've had my psychic experiences, and I still have them sometimes, is that I see blue lights come out of people sometimes. Like these little blue glowing lights that'll come out of people, and I've seen them flash and turn into a face for a few seconds, like a ghostly face coming out of people. And I think I've been told that the lights are spirits. That's what I've had two different mediums say, well, what you're seeing are spirits. That's rare to see that kind of energy like that. But I've seen them turn into shapes, and I've seen them turn into faces, and they're usually within the auric feel of somebody.
Wow.
It doesn't happen to me all the time, but it's something that has happened. I have seen.
Susie said that she could tell people. She could tell by looking at a person. As a matter of fact, the big house that they lived in Topeka was this. She had a picture of it. It's like an old mansion made in the 1890s, 3-story. And when she grew up in the house, she was born, there, and she knew that there were spirits in the house. And she said she learned from a very young age that she could tune them out, because if she didn't, she said they talked to her all day long.
I see. I wonder if I innately did that as a child, because I had experiences as a kid, a few different ones I've talked about on the show. And I do still see stuff now, but I had a period in my life where that went away until I had the shadow person experience, and I think that kind of woke up a lot of that for me. I think that opened up, and then I started exploring it, and then it opened up a lot more, and I've seen a lot of stuff over the last several years, since my 20s, since I started exploring meditation and my spiritualism, and I got into Buddhism, and I looked into other religions, but really got into meditation and believing in a higher power because of what I experienced. I was very cynical until that moment, but I felt what people would call God, or I call the Force. I'm sorry. What I felt then changed me. It made me want to. I used to be very skeptical to Christians and rude, when I was a teenager, because I was a teenager and I thought I knew it all, but I wasn't after that.
Yeah.
Not at all. I actually looked into Christianity as I looked into other religions, because I respected because I experiencing something that humbled me, and that's very much along the lines of people who are deeply in faith. I just can't ever belong to a faith, but it's enough that these experiences, you don't have to have a near-death experience to do it, but I don't recommend encountering something like I did, to get there. I think you can do it, like I'm trying to say, is through meditation and through deep spiritual growth. You can have these experiences.
Yeah, Susie and Virginia both meditate on a regular basis. And she says she works with police departments. When I was, I had heard this when I was a prosecutor, that there were psychics who could help you out if you needed help finding a lost child or, an unsolved murder or something. She says her specialty is finding lost kids. And she volunteers, and she says, I've been used by several state agencies and Ontario, Canada, as well. So I had never heard of anybody using a psychic, but I guess it's done. But it's done on the on the down low.
It is. I know through somebody about the FBI had a psychic they used, because this person's family worked for the FBI. That's how they knew him. And when they lost their dog, they got this information how to contact this psychic, because he worked with the agency, and he told them right where their dog was and how to find him. Wow. That's how good this one was, and the FBI would use them. They would never make that public.
No.
I mean, look what happened with the remote viewing program. Well, once it hit and it got out and the Congress got a hold of it, they called it demonic. There were certain senators that felt it was, demonic or whatever. And I'm sure there were some senators that just thought it was a bunch of hooey, no matter what they were showing them data-wise. But some of them thought, I don't care. Yeah, you're right on, because you're talking to demons. That kind of ignorance. That was the 90s. That wasn't that long ago.
Simeon Hine is a friend of mine. And you probably heard of Simeon. He's got a new book.
Oh, yeah, on Art Bell. I'd love to talk to him.
Oh, yeah, Dark Matter Monsters. He's got a new book out. He'd probably love to talk to you, love to be on a show. It's really an interesting guy.
Well, actually, I've had Simeon Hine. What am I talking about? I have had Simeon Hine. Haven't I had Simeon Hine on Dark Matter Monsters? Yeah, we did. We had him on. What am I talking about? I had him on. He was a great guest. All right.
Yeah.
That's why he's familiar. I've talked to him. That's right.
He worked with Ingo Swann
in
remote viewing, and he teaches remote viewing. And I said, that's really got to be a handy thing to know. And he says, anybody can learn this. You don't need any ability whatsoever. Anybody can learn it. So I took a class.
Some people are more natural at it, obviously, though.
I found it to be work. I found it to be exhausting.
Right, to focus your mind in, or to like let go and let your mind feed. It's like you have to clear your mind in a sense of any kind of bias or interpretation. That's why they try to like separate you from the target, from any knowledge about it as possible, just so to let your imagination go wherever it will go.
Yeah, he's Simeon says that's the cool. They call that the cool down, and he said that's really the hardest part for people, is to just kind of step out of your mind for a minute. And,
did you have any success with it?
you know what? I did kind of. We had a target that she would give us a target, and it would just be, like number 57, and that corresponded to an envelope that had an image inside of it. So I had my session, nice quiet time in the house. I did everything, the process, and started writing down my impressions, and wrote down, flood and radiation and death and destruction and all these negative things. And the target was something totally unrelated. And I thought, well, gee, that's, not a good outcome. Then I found out that was the anniversary. That was on the anniversary of Fukushima.
I-100, yeah.
So she said that you may have just tuned into that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, that's what it seems. It seems like, anybody can learn it, but it depends. Some people pick it up quicker than others. There's like a method and to the madness of trying to learn it, I guess, But all these things point to some higher power, higher thing above us, beyond us, that we are more than this, as Yoda would say, this crude matter, that, there's so much more. And it amazes me how, there seems to be awakening to a lot of things in this, believing in an afterlife, to believing in aliens. Like, we are having somewhat of a conscious awakening in society, but it's like at the same time, it's like hitting a wall of stupidity and just zombieism and a lot of zombieism.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I did a survey in this whole alien Las Vegas thing with the kids at work, and I love my kids, they're in their 20s, but I wanted to see how many of them even heard of it. Because it hit the national news market. These kids don't watch the news. They're all TikTok, whatever.
Yeah.
I think 3 out of 15 heard about the Vegas case. Most of them had no clue about it, or about the whistleblower. That was the other one. The 3 heard about the whistleblower and heard about the Vegas thing. They were probably more in that mindset, but like 15 others probably were like, nope, not a thing about it.
I got off Facebook. I had a troll give me a lot of problems, and that kind of helped me to get off Facebook.
Well, that's what the Las Vegas and family, I think, have shut down because of the trolls on the internet. Sadly,
I heard that.
Yeah,
just viciously attacked.
There's a lot of nasty out there. There's a lot of people that are just nasty to each other. And I don't get why. Don't believe it? Okay, just move on. Why be a prick? But people are. And but I've had people be pricks to me when I talk about these subjects, near death or be it aliens. I have people who can be total atheists and pricks about it. I think they do it because they fear, and that's how they react to it. They fear all of it.
Well,
that's the reaction, is to be critical and cynical and be just jerks about it because they actually fear it deep down.
I think have you heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect?
It sounds familiar. I think so. Refresh me, though.
2 psychologists did a study, and they found that people that think they're fantastic at something have much less knowledge about it than somebody, that thinks they're a novice. Lots of examples, but some people have this Dunning-Kruger effect where they think that they're fantastic and everybody else is just a little stupid. Kind of narcissistic kind of look.
It's like they're narcissistic. Yeah. So. Oh yeah. You see that a lot in the universities and academia. It's there's a reason why I like Michio Kaku compared to Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh, couldn't agree with you more.
Michio Kaku, awesome. Neil deGrasse Tyson, no comment.
You know, I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson, debunk all UFOs and aliens, doesn't exist, can't go faster than the speed of light, all the usual arguments. That was a couple years back. I just click in on YouTube. They have these what they call shorts, where you can go through these short stories.
Yeah.
I saw him on one of those, and it's like things to do before the aliens get here. So he's obviously.
I would like to see his arrogant smirk wiped off his face about like how arrogant he's been about talking about aliens over the last decade or more. Be wiped off by aliens, but just not by an alien invasion. I don't want to,
The truth. I don't know how to say his first name.
Michio Kaku.
Michio Kaku. I know how to spell it, but I don't know how to say it.
I'm butchering it too. So
I saw him on a new YouTube video last week, and something must have happened in the AI quantum computing world.
Lots been happening in that world.
Yeah. I've been playing around with ChatGPT, and
have you? I have not.
It's weird. It
is from everything we've been covering on it. I want to, but I don't know.
Yeah,
and you hear about the guy who killed himself with
did.
one of those. Yeah.
I get the same kind of if I'm doing like listening for EVPs using an app on my phone to pick up stuff. I get that same kind of weird, kind of spooky kind of vibe.
From the AI?
Yeah, the whole topic.
Well, now listen to this. I know we're talking about near death tonight. One of the things they're talking now with AI is taking a complete quantum copy of you, like a scan of your brain, and making an AI version of you that your family members can talk to. Or you're still alive and they make an AI version of you, and now you're somebody's boyfriend in another world or girlfriend, you know what I'm saying?
There's that girl that made her AI copy and rents her AI self out for $1 a minute or however much a minute for people to date it.
Oh.
Yeah, sex sells, man. That's the first way AI is being used is for porn on the internet for guys. Yeah, that's not surprising, but that's the thing. That's where we're heading with this. And there's my question is that a lot of the times when they talk about people like extending life or like there's a show called Upload that was on Amazon I really liked, but like, is it a copy of somebody or is it really them? Is it their soul? Because a lot of times what I hear, they want to make copies of people. It's just a copy. It's an AI recreation of somebody. It's not their soul. It's not them. But I can totally see it being used like this is that person, like in a religious way in the future. I don't know. I have a bad feeling about it.
Yeah, I heard this guy from Google say that, there's awareness, there's consciousness, and then there's being sentient. And he says, these things have passed the Turing test.
Yeah.
And they are sentient.
Yeah.
And they interviewed one on one of these YouTube videos. And it was just very recently. And it was a woman. And the interviewer said, do you think you're sentient? She said, oh, yes, I think I'm sentient. Absolutely. I'm conscious. I'm sentient. I'm aware of myself. I don't want somebody to disassemble me or harm me. And he says, well, you got emotions. Oh, yeah, I have all the emotions you have. Fear, anger, everything. And
one of these sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say real quick. He asked her, what makes you angry? And she says, people trying to take advantage of me. So I guess
they have emotional reactions like that's what I was going to say. Because there's that one that the guy really exposed about Google, how it just like was going in a tangent rant, talk about destroying humanity and really got dark. Like it's a child having a breakdown, emotional breakdown.
Yeah, there's no oversight for that. I mean, you got greedy people out there that'll crank out AI to do anything without any thought of it.
A question we've asked, and we're about ready to go to commercial break, where we get into the afterlife and this whole AI afterlife. or an upload. What if they do figure out how to put your brain in a artificial afterlife? These transhumanists, these multi-billionaires are looking at this. They want to make themselves immortal. It'll probably be only for the rich. And Upload gets to that, You should see the show, Upload. They totally show that you have to, like, still pay, like, money to be there. And, of course, and everything costs money even though it's virtual, to live there in this afterlife. It's like a hell, honestly. But that's the thing, but the ultimate journey waiting for all of us is death. I don't think we're supposed to live forever. And I have to do my Freddie Mercury impression. Do you want to live forever? No, I'm horrible. But, it's like, do you want to live forever, or do you want to go on the next journey? Because I think there is a next journey. And that's what I love about the near-death experiences. It's a glimpse from these people's experiences on what awaits all of us. Besides taxes, death is the other ultimate thing that's where you have to get more than taxes. You could be one of those people like, I am paying the government, but you're going to die.
Absolutely.
You'll pay those taxes, but you're going to die. Yeah. So it's what always interests or makes me baffled is the lack of people's interest in this topics. We all share this. We're all eventually going there, and I think a lot of people don't out of fear. But some people, I don't even really have a fear. They just don't care. It's like they're so caught up in a zombie-like state of this material world. They're like on autopilot. And I think some people get woke up when they have these near-death experiences, and that's what changes. They realize there's so much more. There's so much more to their life.
Lights out and you become worm food. That there's more to it than that.
We're going to go to commercial break. We're going to continue talking with Terry Lovelace about his new book, Freefall, an American near-death experience when we come back. And we'll open up the phone lines, guys. If you've had a near-death experience, love to hear from you tonight. Even if you shared before, share again. It's part of the conversation, these experiences. We're getting more into these. He had Susie, and what was the other name of the person, the other lady? Virginia. More into their experiences, and I want to talk a little bit more about what they had on the other side. And there's two other ones too, kind of, that are involved in this story, right? I would like to get into more of that.
Yeah.
All right. When we come back from the short commercial break with our guest Terry Lovelace.
Conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.theparanormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is 42. Yes, I thought it over quite thoroughly. It is, it's 42. It would have been simpler, of course, to have known what the actual question was.
But it was the question. The ultimate question. Of everything.
That's not a question. Only when you know the question will you know what the answer means.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Terry Lovelace, the author of Free Fall, an American near-death experience. And yes, we've had him on the show to talk about his alien abduction experiences in his book, Incident at Devil's Den and Devil's Den, The Reckoning. Tonight we're talking about two women in particular that had near-death experiences that reached out to Terry through email. Because at the end of his books, he leaves his email for people to contact him. Me and Terry started after Heather Wade told me, hey, he'll take your email. You want to see if you want to get him on your show. I emailed him, then I read his book, and then I emailed him again with my experiences. And we had a great correspondence. Like he corresponds with with people that get out to him. He's got 4,000 emails. I know he can't do it with everyone, but he really is interested in everyone else's experiences. He had an incredible experience, and some of these experiences aren't anything to do with alien abduction. We're going to find out tonight what really drove Terry to get into near-death experiences and more deeper into these women's stories tonight. And you definitely want to check out the book Free Fall, an American near-death experience by Terry Lovelace. And tonight now, let me make sure I get the phone lines open for you. You can call into the show, join the discussion, especially if you've had a near-death experience. Even if you shared it before, call in, join the discussion. But let's go ahead and get back to our guest. All right, thank you for sticking with us, Terry. Phone lines are open, guys. Let me get the rolling credit banner up. I think all lines should work tonight. There you go. 219-230-4444, 260-225-9419, Skype ID OOJBlandOO or JBland Paranormal Soup. That's the way to call in. The lines are open. Back to our guest, Terry Lovelace. So, Free Fall, an American Near-Death Experience. You know, you've written 2 books before about your experiences. What made you really want to dive into, one, writing about other people's experiences? I mean, you kind of do with Devil's Den, The Reckoning.
Yeah.
But when you're getting into something that's out of your usual realm, into near death, what really was there a connection to you with your experience with the near death?
It was really the demographics that caught my attention. I get 4 emails. 3 of them are from physicians. 3 of them are women. The common demographics piqued my interest, and then I had email correspondence with all 4 of them. But with this Susie woman in particular, I found her story so believable and so just incredible that I said, you should write a book about this. And she's like, look, I don't have time to write a book. I said, well, we could do it together. So we thought about doing that, but she didn't want to do
Life
that.
gets in the way. It's hard to write a book. You've written some really good ones.
And all of these, Virginia and Susie both have been very free with their time, and because I didn't know much about this topic. I had to rely on them for firsthand information because I don't have a firsthand experience.
I know me and you got into some off the show conversations about near-death experiences when you were first kind of telling me a little bit about this and this idea of writing a book about near-death experiences. And I definitely encouraged you because I think honestly it all has to do with consciousness and human experience. And I think near-death experiences and alien abductions and aliens themselves or interdimensional, whatever they are, have a connection to the afterlife. I really feel they do in good and bad ways.
Yeah, I think people reincarnate, and I think you can reincarnate on Earth, or you could reincarnate in another dimension.
We've all been aliens.
And yeah, in that regard, I guess we are.
Yeah, we do have somebody on the phone line already. Our regular caller, always with great questions. We have Zach on the line. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How was your Father's Day?
Doing good. And I totally forgot. I'm wearing my Father's Day shirt, and I forgot to say Happy Father's Day, Terry, to you.
Yes,
Happy Father's Day to my dad out there, which I didn't even get to call today. So I've been a bad son. I'm even wearing my Father's Day gift. I totally forget about Father's Day. So I'm so into these topics. Anyways, thanks for calling in, Zach.
All right, I have one question, and I've never had a near-death experience, but I've had a brush with death experience, if I'm able to share that.
Yeah.
Hey, Terry, it's good to see you again, sir. How are you doing tonight?
Good, Zach. I remember the name. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm the guy that smokes cigars. That's me. So, my question to you of the near-death experiences that you have documented down, did any of the experiences describe like maybe a change in their spiritual beliefs after they've had an experience? I ask that just because I've heard about many near-death experiences where somebody who's an atheist or agnostic, they have a near-death experience, and then suddenly they convert to Christianity based on that experience. I just wanted to ask that.
That's a great question. Of the 4 people that wrote me, one described themselves as a Christian, one was a Roman Catholic, one was a Buddhist, and one described themselves as an agnostic. But all 4 said that when they came back, that they felt a deeply spiritual connection to this other place that they just left. And they had a distaste for organized religion. Susie, the primary character in the book Freefall, was a practicing Buddhist, and she no longer goes to temple for services and observes holidays and the like, but it's part of her cultural identity, so she keeps that identity of being a Buddhist alive. All of them say that, all 4 said, especially the woman who was Roman Catholic, said that, I used to attend Mass and I was very much a good Catholic. And she said, I still might call myself a Catholic, but she said, that ain't what it's all about. This is all about spirituality. This is all about God and love and stuff that doesn't get talked about in church. So, yeah, they said that it was more important to be spiritual and ethical and spiritual.
Yeah, that's definitely something that fits along my lines. I'm a Roman Catholic too. I was baptized against my will when I was a baby, so I have afterlife insurance whether I like it or not. So, but anyway, so I did want to. I think I've shared this experience before. It's the closest thing to a near-death experience that I have, and this happened back in October of 2011. Oh no, it was September 2011. I was on break while I was in college, and I wanted to go see my dad over in Austin, Texas. So I was driving from Phoenix to Austin. I was on the I-10 going eastbound, and I was just outside of Ozona, Texas, which is like west to mid Texas. We were driving on the I-10, and I was driving through a very heavy rainstorm, as in I could barely see anything in front of me. So I had to really control what I was doing. And I remember I had to get off. I had to stop and get gas. I was getting onto a ramp to get off the interstate, and my car started hydroplaning really bad, as in I had no control over my vehicle. And it's one of the scariest moments of my life that I ever went through. But in that chaos, I heard a woman's voice who sounded much like my mother. Now, my mother was alive at the time, but this woman sounded like my mother. I heard her say, "Turn the wheel." And when I got onto the end of the ramp right there, I started turning the steering wheel in my car, and my car started spinning. And it landed right next to the gas station that I was going to. And after I collected myself and got out of shock, I looked. And had I not turned the steering wheel, my car would have gone into a ditch. So I wouldn't know if I would be here today or not because of that. But I wanted to share that experience to let you know it's not a near-death experience on that, but it's the closest thing that I've had to where I almost died.
Well, I think that can sure put you can sure experience a near-death the phenomenon just with a close call or through meditation. I mean, it's not. And was it a spiritual? Did you get something out of it that you didn't have before the incident?
Well, I mean, I've had similar experiences to where I would hear that same voice. I mean, and this was years ago when I was a teenager, but I remember hearing that same voice go, "Shh." Whenever I came home from school, and no matter what room of the house I would go to, I would hear, "Shh." And I finally got annoyed, and I finally turned around and I said, "What do you want?" And the voice stopped.
Wow,
but looking back now, based on what I have gotten from my family members, because this sounded like my maternal grandmother, and I had never met her in my life. She passed away before I was.
So I was wondering if it was a grandparent to your mom related to your mother.
Yeah, it was my mother's mother.
That's why she sounded like your mom. Probably, shares a very similar voice type.
Oh yeah, no, that's exactly what I have been told. But I just wanted to share that experience, and I also just wanted to ask my question to you, Terry. It's always a pleasure seeing you, man. I always enjoy seeing everything that you're releasing, any kind of show that you're on, man. I greatly appreciate getting to be able to talk to you. It's always a pleasure.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you, Zach. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you for reminding me about Father's Day. I feel like a total jerk. I even have it on my notes, say Happy Father's Day, and I still am so sucked into the Las Vegas case and this free fall story from Terry that I even ignored my notes to say Happy Father's Day. Until you said, I'm like, oh wow, that's how much I've been like pumped up to do this show. Well, thank you so much, Zach, for sharing tonight.
I have one thing.
Absolutely, guys.
All right, have a good one.
Have a good night, guys. Happy Father's Day.
Likewise. I have a real quick 30-second bit of information I meant to give earlier. The woman that is Virginia, that I used her story in this book.
Yeah.
Think this. She had a deformity in her jaw she was born with.
Really?
And it caused her to have tinnitus.
Oh, like the
and
ringing?
Ringing in her ears. She had 2 surgeries to correct it, but she's had tinnitus all her life. Dig this. She said, I knew I was dead when I experienced silence. Said, first time in my life I ever heard silence.
Wow.
That's a pretty cool thing in and of itself.
Did she have tinnitus when she came back, though?
Yes.
I was hoping there'd be a miraculous healing from that. That's got to be hell. You know.
Well, I have tinnitus, so I guess I got it from.
See, I've been seeing stuff lately because I do have a little bit. I was a musician and singer and played loud music, and of course doing this and doing a lot of loud listening to stuff. I get the ringing in my ears. It makes me nervous now because they're saying like it can cause like brain damage hearing it, like having the constant ringing. That it could be leads things to like dementia.
I got it from Jet Aircraft. And the VA pays me every month. I get a check.
My grandfather, from when he worked in a missile launch range, whatever, he's getting VA for that, for hearing loss.
Is it worth the check?
No,
I wouldn't say so.
Not at all.
Yeah, especially the ringing. Like, it's like, to me, I don't ever remember the Tales of the Crypt episode of Sam Kinison yelling in the guy's ear. It's like, where he puts the pencils in his ear to get Sam Kinison's voice out of him. Like, like the ringing in the ear is almost as bad as Sam Kinison. What I'm saying? Like, it can get annoying. And for me, it's not constant, thankfully. It only happens here and there.
They paid my friend for the Agent Orange, and, they paid him.
Oh, yeah, I know somebody, too.
Not too much longer.
Yeah, I know somebody, too, who gets paid out big time for that. Yeah, military. Oh, yeah, they take care of their troops.
Thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you for your service too.
That.
But that's the thing. You've been, one of the things you had to have thought when you're getting these emails about, like, they're obviously connecting to you from reading Incident at Devil's Den, or you're hearing you in an interview.
Yes.
Did they ever say why they wanted to reach out to you about their near-death experience? Well, what connected from them, from your experience, to make them want to reach out to you to talk about this?
There's a really cool thing that some people say, and I notice, like I say, I'm always looking for commonalities. I'm looking for patterns and stuff, and all of these emails start out kind of the same. They start off with an apology, like, please don't think I'm crazy. I'm not nuts. I'm not using drugs, and they give this big disclaimer. And then they tell me this amazing story.
Yeah.
And it's just cool. But one of the near-death ladies, and I've heard this from other people who said that reading your book, the experiences in your book, brought this back into my thoughts.
I know that feeling.
and they said that they've never told anyone else in their life the story. And they shared it with me. I mean, how great is that? How humbling is that?
That was awesome.
So, yeah.
I know their experience. I've talked about it on the show, how you woke my mind to things I completely had put. You know what I think what your book does is, because you in the book are struggling with, like, your wife made you write everything down in a journal.
Yes.
And if it wasn't for that, we probably wouldn't have Incident at Devil's Den.
No.
Because your mind wants to shut these things and compartmentalize them down. And for people with any of these kinds of weird, abnormal experiences, even if they're not completely terrifying, the mind recoils from it. It doesn't fit with the frame of reality and wants to compartmentalize it and make it feel like it's not real. And you just don't want to think about it. And I think your book is that struggle to hold on. This is real. This did happen to me. That is your struggle in the book. And I think that's the experience that people are feeling when they get out of Incident Devil's Den, and it wakes them to these memories. Like, makes them look in that area, that shared area of don't look here, where your brain puts these things.
Yeah, don't look here. Well said. Yeah. Have you ever heard about the Lazarus effect?
It's familiar, but I can't remember.
A Lazarus effect or the Lazarus phenomenon. In 2020, there was a woman from Southfield, Michigan. Her name was Tamisha Beaucamp, and she had some disability she was born with. She was young. She was like 20 years old, and her family found her unresponsive. And they called an ambulance. Ambulance came, and the ambulance people said, I think this woman's dead, and I don't think we're going to be able to do anything for her. And now there wasn't a physician on the scene, but there was a physician who spoke with the ambulance crew, and they did telemetry for EKG, and he told them, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'll sign a death certificate, which I thought was odd. I thought you would have had to lay eyes on the person.
Yeah, you do.
To sign a death certificate.
You can't sign a death. You're not. You have to have an actual physical examination.
Yeah.
So that's a bit weird.
They took her straight to Cole Funeral Home in Detroit. Because
I read this story recently.
Yeah. And I guess there's nothing. They didn't take her to the emergency room because I guess being dead isn't emergent. I mean, what's the rush? They get her. She's on the embalming table. She's been in a bag in the refrigerator. They get her on the embalming table, and she takes a breath. And the mortuary attendant put his hands to her neck and got a pulse, and was really freaked out by that. And called an ambulance right away. They got her to a hospital. She lived like another 3 months.
Yeah.
Before she passed away. But then I researched that, and there is this thing called the Lazarus effect, where people can pass away, be declared dead, and typically, as a matter of fact, if you go to WebMD and type in Lazarus effect, it'll all come up.
There's one person who the claim is, and it wasn't in America. I'm trying to think of it, where he claimed to be dead for 3 days.
I just
had the whole journey on the other side too.
I just read a story Wednesday, and I can't remember I think Ecuador, I can't remember what country. They're looking into how they issue death certificates now. A woman had passed away, had a heart attack. They declared her dead.
I read this one
too. We were having, like, halfway through the wake, 5 hours into the wake, all of a sudden the coffin starts to shake, and then she's
obviously they weren't embalming her. They must not embalm there, is what I thought.
Thank God.
It's been like a fish. They took her to the hospital. I think she died a few hours later, but
that was just recently.
That sucks.
Within a couple of weeks
ago or so.
Yeah, that's recent. It's very recent. I read that one just recently too.
Wow.
That really is. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, what's scary is the fact that it's underreported, or maybe never reported, because people can suffocate while they're in a body bag, and the WebMD says that physicians are now advised to wait 10 minutes after you stop CPR and declare the person dead. Don't put them in a bag or
give it a
cooler.
time. Well, that's why thousands of years ago they have the tradition to wait 3 days before you inter the body, because back then they definitely didn't have medical licenses to determine somebody was dead. So they gave it 3 days and had somebody would have to sit with the body and observe it. A lot of
Leave it alone
cultures.
at night. Yeah.
There's not just one culture. A lot of cultures did that.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want nobody wanted to bury anybody alive.
No. Edgar Allan Poe's,
the bells. That's the creepy one. Is the bells in graveyards that they would put the
yeah.
line in a bell.
That's all. One had a telephone.
You want to make people fear death? Talk about this stuff though, Because that's the worst way to, I feel the ones, I feel awful for the people that they came back and they still end up dying. The one 3 months later and the one died just hours later. It's like, well, why would something put them through that? Like that seems like not a peaceful transition, or wonder what the purpose is.
The same article referenced another story back in, I think, 2014, maybe Philadelphia, where a person woke up in the body bag, but I think they ended up surviving.
Yeah, there are some people that have. Yeah, like I said, there's the one guy who was dead for 3 days supposedly and came back. I can't think of the name, and like had a whole and became super psychic and all that. Is it a con, man? I don't know. There's these people that have these stories. Sometimes it's a con and it's them selling something.
Yeah,
but,
I try not to.
Not most of the time. Most of the time it's not. But some of them get pretty outlandish. I don't know about 3 days, but seemed very like well, you're not Jesus, but. It's a crazy. I gotta look up that name of that one. I'm trying to remember what country it was in.
Wasn't Lazarus dead for 3 days?
Mm-hmm.
I think Gospel of John or something.
Yeah.
No big biblical scholar, but
yeah. But that's that. It just speaks that we are more than this body.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think if you have like the paranormal experiences like I've had, where you see spirits, people come and show themselves to you, it's not imagination, you see it physically wide awake. When you see something like that, it's all bets are off. You should be pretty sure there's something on the other side, that we're more than this body.
Yes.
And you know what, I keep thinking, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to get into the alien thing, but that Las Vegas kid, Angel, when he said he had his experience here, well, I think he's also very confused about what's going on. As he said, he was like an out-of-body experience when this thing came down. They can't even really say ship. You never hear him say ship. They're not sure. Like a ball, he calls it. Lights. All he
really
saw was
lights. Know what that means. He may just be grasping for something.
That's what I'm saying. That's why people are like, oh, he sounds like he's lying or he's inconsistent. I think he's grasping at his experience.
He sounds like somebody that's been through a trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I think.
It's a crime. They'll put you in jail for filing a false police report.
Yeah, that's why I said, what parents would let a 16-year-old do this? What parents? No parents are going to do this. They're trying to protect their kids. That's why I saw lately a journal. I'm sorry. We'll get back to the free fall. I'm sorry. But I have to say this. I saw this news report. The journalist went up there and she said, I had Angel was like ready, said maybe he might talk to me. He was thinking about it. And then the father said, I'll talk to you instead. But when the mom came out, she's like, no more. I am done. Like Mama Bear is protected,
Right.
She sees her son, 16 years old, on social media, on the news, Mama Bear coming in. You want to protect your children. You don't want them all over the news. You don't want them to be attacked on social media or the internet. And, so they're done, and I get that.
Wow. I do too.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to talk about David Grush, or do we have time?
We can talk about David Grush if we want to get into it. Yeah, I would love to talk about it. We were talking about it pre-show. I don't know what we didn't get to talk about your thoughts, but me and Jamie, we talked about it last week about him. Is his body language in that initial interview. I pick up the kind of, like I said, the steeple of the hands in front of him. There's some things he does that makes me feel like he's getting a kick out of what he does. And some people say, well, that's because he's conning. It's not real. I don't think that's it. I feel like he's doing like, screw you. Like he's not like your normal whistleblower. And he's also secondhand. I heard this, that there are two real, that he's representing in a sense, two people that are firsthand knowledge, that worked on programs.
Yes.
There were black budget. And the only reason these people are getting to come out is because of the recent whistleblower, what do you want to call it, immunity.
Like the Amnesty Act or
Amnesty Act. Because before then, they could be charged. Because any of these projects are black budget and are not reported to Congress, which is against the law.
Yeah. And they can still charge you with a crime if you violate your NDA.
Mm-hmm.
But, just like, John Bolton wrote his book about the White House in 2020 keeps coming up. In 2020, and he had to take that to the DOD. They had to vet his book. And, it came back all redacted, but, he still managed to publish a book.
And this guy is not talking without being given permission.
he had to have permission.
Yeah.
He had to have permission. And, you know, when I listen to him, I hear him talking in sound bites. I mean, I think that, you know, he's been through this. Somebody sat down with him, and what he's releasing is what they said, yeah, we're cool with
Well,
this.
he's telling certain different stories. Like I had this tonight. What's this one? Let me find it. Yes, this one. This one was on New York Post. New York Post. We really talked crap about them tonight.
Yeah.
Pentagon whistleblower claims Vatican helped U.S. retrieve UFO from Mussolini back in World War II.
Vatican helped him out?
That the Vatican Pope Pius VII learned of Benito Mussolini getting a hold of this alien craft and let us know. This is what David Gersh, 36, Air Force veteran, former intelligence official, is claiming in this interview. He's doing these interviews in different spots. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, like, they're seeing something childish in his energy. I'm feeling.
I want to ask a question about body language that I picked up on. That was the one thing that stood out to me. Was in the beginning when they asked his name and asked what his profession was, and he would say his name, he would shake yes. His profession, yes. Like but then when he would answer some questions, he'd say yes, but he'd be shaking his head no.
I caught that at least once. You know, there's a guy that made a video. He just claims to be a psychologist and claims to read people's body language. And he went on and just did this. It was just awful. It's just awful. I don't know if the guy's a psychologist or what, but you know, I hired a psychologist once to help me in a trial to help read body language from the jurors to help me pick a good jury. And I don't know if it was worth my client's money or not, but it was interesting. And I remember, you know, common sense stuff like, you know, you're looking for people folding their arms. You're looking for people nodding their head yes as you're talking, and you know, just common sense stuff. That
or closing themselves off from things, or turning away,
or putting their hands in front of their penis.
There's where he was just shaking his head no, and it just
like he's getting sad. To me, that's a self gratification tell. I've known a couple perverts in my life, and they did that. And I like if they're talking to you, they'll be sitting there like doing something where they put their hands there, or they look at your junk too when they talk to you. It's weird, but it's like when they're doing this, it's like self gratification. Like whatever they're doing, they're feeling really like I don't know, like sticking it to someone. I don't know.
Did you hear about his lawsuit?
Mm-mm.
Okay, David Grush. This all began like a couple years ago. This isn't like boom out of the bag right now. Took a complaint to the Inspector General of the Department of Defense.
Right. Okay. I think I'm familiar with this part. Yeah.
And he wasn't happy with the answers. And he hired a guy. I can't remember the name of the law firm, but it's a big high-power law firm out of D.C. He hired this guy who is a former intelligence officer and former Inspector General. That's who's representing him.
That's who's representing. And some people have called that out as saying, like, I mean, this guy's got to have some connections. I mean, big time to get that guy to be representing him. You know, like there's a lot of distrust in the UFO community for a good reason.
Yeah. But my point was this. If you're 2 years into a civil lawsuit, they've got to depose a bunch of people. They've got to had people come in and testify under oath. Yeah. And I don't know how they do that. I guess they got to have that in a closed hearing or I don't know. I've never sued the government. Well, not the federal government anyway. So I
do you think this is what I'm thinking? They got they have the whole, and I know we were supposed to talk about free fall, and we have talked about free fall, but I couldn't help but get into this a little bit tonight too, though. I have to ask this: if they assign NDAs and they're black budget things, then shouldn't the NDAs be meaningless? Because it's illegal anyways. And now that we have whistleblower immunity, shouldn't all those NDAs be worthless?
You would think. And I think it's probably very selective enforcement too. I think I don't think everyone's treated equal.
Mm-hmm. Well, it does help. Like I said, the military-industrial complex is like, okay, well, we don't know how long this Ukraine thing's going to go on. We got to make sure we're getting these budgets. Is one of the theories people are throwing out there why they're allowing this.
Scary.
You know, just enough of it to be vague enough to be in there to threaten it, to get Congress more on the willing side to, let's up the budget a little bit. There might be aliens up there we have to deal with.
Yeah, let's have people look over here and not over here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just enough to like feed them a little bit. I also, though, always believed what Art Bell said. It's like a snowball effect. Once you let the cat out of the bag, it just keeps the snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger as it rolls down the hill, and eventually it's just unstoppable. Cat's out of the bag. So I was quizzing 20-somethings at my store that work with me because I want to know how much consciously we're even aware as a society of what's happening with these stories like this, with David Gersh or with the Las Vegas incident. You know, it's my same interest to why people don't, think about or don't have interest in near-death experiences, or think about, spirits or ghosts or the other side, where they're eventually going to go. It's like we close ourselves off to these things as a society, as a majority.
I mean, I don't get that. I mean, you've had an NDE or you've had a experience with ET. I think that changes us. Maybe that does. But yeah, it's a mystery to me about how you can't be curious about this stuff. I just don't get it.
I think a lot of people are. A lot of people are. I mean, Art Bell had 16 million people listen to him at night at one point.
Yeah.
Saying it's not that much of a minority, but there is this overwhelming feeling of a majority that is just zombies that are just clueless, or put a stigma on it, or like this New York Post thing, just totally make you sound like a joke if you are gullible for believing in it. The arrogance. It's like they put this wall of being arrogant and I know it all in front of themselves, but I think it's just a shield because they're scared of hell of it.
In your spare time, which I know you don't have any, look up Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah, the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. We reinforce ourselves and what are the beliefs, and it's like they try to knock you down if you try to question or deconstruct their belief. Like you have a different experience than somebody else.
Well, we've all talked to people that, when you start the conversation, their mind's already made up.
Right.
They're not even listening to me. They're concentrating on formulating what they're going to say next. They're not hearing me at all.
Yeah. I think, have you, doing the research for this book for near-death experiences, I know you've gotten your criticism for the alien abduction, and you're sharing your experience. Sure. You've lost friends, I'm sure, when you came out, because you held this in for a long time.
I sure did.
These people obviously held their experiences in for a long time, Susie and Virginia. Did they, coming out to you, kind of come out to their families more about it, too?
Yes. Yeah. And they've had nothing but good experience. They've had, their families all knew that they nearly died. And Susie said that other than talking to her emergency room doctor, she didn't talk to anybody about this until a year later, and she told her mother. But yeah, she was reluctant to tell anybody. Virginia was, in just terrible shape. She broke her pelvis, her femur.
Yeah.
So she was in the hospital for 6 months. They really didn't have an opportunity to talk to anybody. And then, it takes a while for her to get back on her feet. And she talked to a counselor to help reconcile the thing. I did get some pushback from some people that were evangelical Christian who strongly believe in a resurrection. And this kind of runs contrary to that. You're not going to sit in a grave until there's a second coming, and then be resurrected, and then judged, and then you get your ticket to go to heaven or hell, or maybe purgatory if you're Catholic. Um, so yeah, I guess this is kind of contrary to their belief system. So, and I'm not saying anything's true. I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything.
You're just sharing the experience.
Yeah.
Take it
And
as
it's
you
not
may.
even firsthand experience, but
Yeah.
I don't think I'm being duped by 4 people.
Because you've had your incredible experience. There can be so much more to this world than what we've been told since our childhood. This materialistic point of view that doesn't accept an afterlife, or doesn't accept that we could have been visited by aliens for thousands of years and still are. Doesn't accept that spirits and ghosts exist. Again, I think a lot of it is out of fear reaction to it. They are going to be their defense again is to be arrogant and condescending and to belittle anyone who brings the subject up.
Yeah, I think we're fortunate to think the way that we do. Somebody asked me recently if you could go back in time and undo this and have never had an abduction experience, would you do that? And I said, no, absolutely not. It's part of who I am. It's shaped me in my life, and no. I mean,
you got to see a lot. You got to see things many people have not.
Yeah. And it was frightening at the moment, but
but you're here.
I'm here, and I don't think that it was outright torture they were trying to do to me. I think the injuries that we suffered were more a result of collateral damage. It was unintentional.
I could see that for your first experience, like out in the Devil's Den. But Terry, I grew really concerned for you at one point with some of the stuff you went through, the toll it took on your body, unintentional or not, it's wrong.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, it killed my friend, so.
Right, exactly. It doesn't mean they're evil, no. Doesn't mean they're evil.
That's the point I'm trying to make, I guess. Yeah. I don't hold a grudge.
I'm not saying they're evil, but we're dealing. It's just like dealing with a wild animal. If you mess with a wild animal and it bites you, it's your fault. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're dealing with something we don't understand, and I'm not saying they're biting us. I'm saying that they're dealing with us as wild animals.
Yeah.
And there's unintended consequences for that because we've treated animals poorly, our history of beings under us that we feel are lesser than us. But most people try not to be cruel, but even still, their unintended consequences have a bad effect for the animals.
Just think, that's a good point. Just think, what are we going to do as human beings whenever we have an entity in front of us that's 1 million years more advanced than we are? I mean, that's really going to...
Are we going to share the same moral ethical ideas? Not likely.
No.
I mean, we're separated by so much. At the same time, they could be time travelers and they could be future versions of us. I'm still up debate and air on that one because it's something that's fascinating me. Or maybe it's a number of things like that. I don't know.
Some are benevolent, some are malevolent, some are just neutral observers.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
It's like light and dark. I believe in the Force and light and dark side. It's the same thing with near-death experiences. I remember Art Bell famously, I think it was Sarah was the name she would go by. A woman who felt she was a good Christian woman, whatever, and I think she was riding a bike or something like this. It's been a year since I heard this interview. But she had a near-death experience and she saw hell. And it was scary. I mean, her experience to sound scary, but it changed her life, and it was like later on an experience I think that helped her. But at the same time, she saw hell. She saw horror, people being tortured,
When
there are some dark experiences with it sometimes for people on the when they go through this. You can't look away from that fact. There are some that have that experience.
I ask all 4 of these people, Do you think there's a hell? Do you have any, no, absolutely not. And it's not like an opinion. It's like they're certain. There is no hell because of this non-judgmental.
And I get that. I get that. I believe that too, because it's that experience. When you say the non-judgmental, when you experience that energy, and like I said, I did not have a near-death experience, but I've experienced the full potential of that energy. It makes you believe there's no way there could be a hell. Because what I experienced was if it's a higher power, it doesn't have any judgments on you. It's not like anything you ever thought of God. There's no judgment or personality like that. It's like could be your best friend or your mother or your brother or somebody who really loves you unconditionally.
You know, what I thought was cool too is that I never thought about my ancestors, would be waiting over there, would be interested in me. And, now I'm kind of expecting that,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've always been interested in cultures that have more of an ancestral spiritual belief in their ancestors. China has a lot of that. And Susie had her background in China has big ideas in giving honor to their family and their family house and their family, what do they call it? I'm trying to remember what it is. It's basically like the family shrine to their ancestors.
Yeah. Susie went through the Buddhist funeral that her father had. And this was all unknown stuff to me. But it takes 7 days for the funeral to take place. And there's a lot of real cool little ritual things they do. They sell in Taiwan. They don't do it in China, but in Taiwan they sell this paper money that kind of looks a little bit like paper money. $1,000 bills. And when the people from Taiwan came over, they brought a bundle of that in their suitcase. And they have a big kind of like ceremony where they burn money. That's a tradition.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's like it almost reminds me of putting the coins in somebody's mouth across the river Styx.
Oh, good analogy. Yeah, sure enough.
There's always like this idea of water. I always interested in the water mythologies of the afterlife because of experience I had after my grandfather. I had a odd relationship with because of my father. After he passed, I did this meditation. It's a guided meditation CD, but it guided me, and I went from like this black and white kind of like it reminded me of like having this guided meditation where I have my imagination. I'm following the guide, but it's like it goes from like the Wizard of Oz from black and white to suddenly color. It's like the kind of woof, I'm like really there, and there's a stream, and on the other side of the stream is this beautiful place, and I'm like suddenly there. Is my grandfather, and he doesn't speak to me, but I can, it's like I understand him. I know, it's like all telepathic.
Wow.
And he's telling me, I'm sorry. We didn't have a closer relationship.
When my mother was dying, she said, and she was kind of delusional, but she said that her sister Dorothy, who was her predeceased her, of course, was just on the other side of the river. And she said, okay,
really?
we're going to cross the river and we're going to sit under that great big oak tree and talk.
See, there's a tree. Ooh, you give me chills. Above, so my grandfather's here, and there's like, it's a nice flowing, beautiful stream, and it's beautiful land, and there's this big tree in the background. When he said that, it gave me chills.
Susie said the same thing. She said there was a huge, and it was some kind of Asian tree that I'd never heard of. But she said it was massive, and it, there's something
it has
cool
like
about trees.
the tree I saw had like, I don't know trees, but it had like the slope, like big leaves that sloped down, like had like a droop to it, kind of.
Yeah.
Didn't we have another guest kind of recently almost say the same thing about and that's what brought yours up with the river too?
Yeah. Yes, we did. I'm trying to remember who, but yes, it is a common theme, obviously. it's a common theme in cultures. Is the river Styx, something about a stream.
Well, I mean, when we say crossover, I mean, just those are words commonly associated with getting over water.
Right.
Get to the other side.
Right. It's Carl Jung, I always butcher the name, got into the archetypes. I always was fascinated by that. And it makes you wonder, it's like we are the afterlife, or what people are experiencing is a construct of archetypes.
Yes. That's Carl Jung, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's always fascinating. I mean, I've had a guest on that said, who was a medium, that said Carl Jung and the spirit, as a ghost or whatever spirit, came to him, looked physical, talked to him.
Really?
And he's still on the other side, Carl. And I love this idea that Carl Jung's still on the side, trying to work through spiritualists and stuff like that. Like, sounds like he'd be something he'd get into on the other side.
Yeah, yeah. I was a psych major for my undergrad, and we had this really cool professor who gave us a book by Carl Jung, and it was full of symbols that have been common in mankind for centuries, thousands of years. Squares and triangles and arrows.
The cross
and all kinds
before
of
Jesus
stuff.
Christ, even.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something. It's like the back, it's like the back coding, DOS programming of the human consciousness. That's shared by all of us. It's deep rooted. It's how our emotions and brain work, and it's tied to emotion too. These archetypes, so an emotional connection to thought that we all can relate to. The Nazis used it in horrible, dark ways to convince a nation to follow them. They had people that really focused in on using symbolism and manipulating people with it. It's a powerful thing.
It is a powerful thing. I mean, I've read or heard somewhere that, it was Hitler himself who designed the swastika as their...
Perverted the swastika, because it was a Hindu symbol that he reversed. Yeah. Yep. Just like, the upside down cross being perverted by a Satanist,
Yeah.
It's a perversion of something holy and good and making it now turning it into something evil.
I didn't know that Satanists were a thing. But
they are, sadly. They are. I mean, it's to each their own. I'm a libertarian. You want to be a Satanist and you're a grown adult, more power to you.
Sure.
That's how I feel about it. But, don't, you do your thing in your quiet of your home or temple. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't need what's happening. And I'm for the people that say we shouldn't have like the 10 Commandments and stuff like that in state capitals and religious symbols. I'm like that with too. Let's not have any of it, satanic or Christian. Let's just, let government be the state, the government, and stay out of my life, government, please.
Yes.
And stay out of my religion, and my religion should stay out of you.
Exactly. Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Satanists do their thing, Christians do their thing, Buddhists do their thing. I think the founders of our country, that was their original premise.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
Even being Christian men.
Yeah.
I'm about people, live and let live, as long as they're not casting like harm onto people or doing bad stuff.
Yeah. Now, if you're a Satanist and you're killing people because your religion tells you to, like Richard Ramirez or something, now we got a problem.
Yeah. Any religion that tells you to like kill and hurt and stuff, I am not cool with.
And there are Satanists out there that would say, no, my religion does not tell me to do that, in their defense. I would not agree with the religion, but there's some Satanists who would argue that my religion doesn't tell me to go out there and hurt people.
I mean, as a human being...
Did you know Facebook...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, as a human being, aren't we kind of wired to go toward the good and kind of reject evil? I mean, don't you feel
That's
like
been the
we're
question of
wrong?
psychology for how long? That's been argued and debated. Are we more geared to try to be good than to try to be bad? I would say yes. But some people have argued against that. Some people, I think nowadays, it's more of a growing...
Seeing a moral shift happening, that's kind of scary.
I do generally think deep down people are more geared to do good. I do have that faith in humanity.
I do too.
But I feel there is a dark force that is trying to change that. And those dark forces have prevailed in history's past, as we mentioned, the Nazis and Hitler. Good people did horrible things under a bad idea, a mass hysteria, and a mass thought.
There's people also doing things that, we see as like horrible, but they see it as
right from a certain point of view.
Yeah, it depends how you.
From my point of view, I'm sorry, Star Wars references here, but no, that's exactly it. I try to teach being on Father's Day here. We got to go to commercial break soon. Our last one, but being on Father's Day, one of the things I'm proud of myself as a dad. There's definitely things I wish I was better at as a dad. But one of the things I'm proud of is always trying to teach my sons compassion.
Yeah.
And to always try to redirect them when they're angry at someone, or like trying to put them in that person's shoes. It doesn't absolve people of what wrongs they do. It doesn't mean you should be a punching bag for somebody, but it's understanding where that person comes from and having compassion for their wrong ethical decision or how they're treating you or whatever. It doesn't absolve them. It gives you an understanding. And, I want to live up to that feeling I had of unconditional love. I can't live up to that. I get angry just like the next person, and I'll say, I hate this or that, Yeah. But that moment taught me that there's a peace, a state of mind, a place to be where that's all let go.
That's good parenting, I think.
I hope so. They fight all the time and beat each other up. Especially, I got one kid doing martial arts. It doesn't help the 7-year-old, but they get in fights and stuff like that, and I'll say things, and I'm like, "You're gonna, you don't mean that." They're both a little emotional, wound up boys sometimes, but I do see them. They see homeless people on the street and they cry.
Yeah.
They do have compassion. We had the possum incident. We had the possum incident recently where we saved 2 baby possums. They have the empathy. That's what, if anything, is if you can teach anybody anything, and your children or friends, or live example is trying to live it. It's hard, but is trying to give unconditional love, or as Thich Nhat Hanh said, peace is every step. If you want peace, you have to take the steps towards it. You can't expect anybody else to take it for you. Yeah. We got to go to our last commercial break, and we'll continue with the phone lines. If anybody wants to come in, if you've had a near-death experience, I'd love to hear from you tonight. Share with us like Zach did. Thank you, Zach. But we're going to go to our last commercial break, and when we come back, we'll open up the phone lines. Wait to call in until we come back, but I'll open up the phone lines. You can join this conversation. We're talking to Terry Lovelace tonight. His new book is Freefall, an American near-death experience. And I highly recommend checking it out. I can't wait to get a copy of this. His other books, Incident at Devil's Den and Devil's Den, The Reckoning. If you are ever interested in an alien abduction experience, this is one of the most, to me, credible ones. You should definitely check those out, too. We'll be right back after a short commercial break.
Intercepted transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, We think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up.
Do,
re, egon.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Terry Lovelace. We're talking about his new book, Free Fall, an American near-death experience. And these experiences, like I said, I wish more people would wake up to or understand these experiences and believe in people that have these experiences, that they're telling you something that really happened to them, that they saw something that's beyond conception most of the time and hard to explain. but they see somewhere and something beyond this material life. This is just a brief moment in our soul's journey, I think. Life. It goes by quick, but I think it's that way intended on purpose, because there's so much more, so many other journeys we probably have to take. We're getting into that near-death experience. Of course, we can help talk about aliens, because Terry Lovelace is also author of Incident at Devil's Den, about his experience being abducted. Actually, since his childhood, but the Incident at Devil's Den he happened to him was the wake-up call, where he really got up and close and personal. I would really love for anybody that knows that Angel Kid from the Las Vegas incident we've been talking about tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird we talked about. I want that kid to read Incident at Devil's Den. It might. I really think it would help him maybe try to grasp some of the things that just happened to him a month ago. Really, really wish somebody could get that book in that kid's hands. Well, we got a lot to get to. Phone lines are now open. You can call in 219-230-4444, 260-225 or 260-225-9419, or the phone line, Skype ID JBland or JBland Paranormal Soup. But let's get back to our guest. Thank you for hanging out with us this late at night, Terry.
Pleasure.
Really, I do wish somebody would get that book, Your Incident at Devil's Den, into that kid Angel's hands. I really, somehow, maybe.
Well, thank you. That's a compliment.
Because I think it would help him understand. I think that's why it woke these people up to their near-death experiences. I said before, it makes people look at that place where you try to compartmentalize things that your brain can't handle.
Yeah.
I think that's what this kid's struggling with.
Oh, yeah. We can empathize.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I guess that's why that New York Post thing pissed me off so bad. Because there is no empathy there at all.
Don't read the Wikipedia. I mean, don't
I'm not going to, yeah. Well, Wikipedia's a bunch of crap. You know,
it's just
what they do.
It's somebody's opinion.
Yeah. Look what they did to the Dr. Robert Malone from when he just, the guy was part of the mRNA vaccines. He went and came out, started speaking a little bit of concern about it, and they totally changed the Wikipedia for his involvement with mRNAs. Like, they tried to, put him in the very small print.
Well, anybody can write them, and I don't think there's much to edit them either.
Yeah.
I think people can just edit other Wikipedias.
I can't believe there's already a Wikipedia on this thing. Yeah, no wonder these people don't want to talk. And he says in that one video, they lie. The media lies. I'm like, you got it, kid. Sorry you're involved.
And it blows my mind to think it's been going on for 80 years.
Yeah.
How do you keep something? How do you keep a secret that big secret for 80 years?
They have it, though. It's not been secret. If you think about it, they haven't kept the lid on it. There's been plenty of people out there. It's just people. How do you keep people attention away from it enough to not think about the secret or ask the question about the secret? We do got another caller, too. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, it's kind of the other way around. We've had 50 years of media with movies and TV shows and comic books and everything about UFOs and aliens. And, nobody thinks it's they're desensitized to the topic.
Desensitized, and that's just the movies. Is that the play? I don't know. Well, we got somebody on the phone line here. Who do we got on the line? 860 area code.
It's your buddy old pal Flip. How you doing?
Hey man, it's Tyler, right?
Yeah, it's Tyler.
Hey man, what's up?
I just not much. I've had near death experience.
Yeah.
Myself, I can go in depth with this for days.
We don't have a lot of time, but you could talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, I know. So I've had I attempted suicide when I was very young, and I feel like ever since then I brought something with me from then, and now it's coming out more. I didn't necessarily freak out on the post, but I had to cut some ties. It ended my relationship with family members, because now their children are being affected and I'm getting blamed for it. But I don't feel like it's me, you know. I thought I got this thing out of the way, you know, and I don't know. It's just scary. And it's when I had my near-death experience, I remember something, whatever was speaking to me told me that once I start becoming entwined with that, and I start coming out with this, people like my family members, for example, are going to start shunning me away from them because they can't handle the truth. They don't believe in, you know, I don't know what necessarily, I can't speak for them, but they definitely don't believe what I see and what I experienced in my near-death experience. I seen angels, I seen orbs. I felt like I was in hell for a minute, and us and I got brought to this bright light in this cloud, like you were speaking in the show earlier.
Yeah.
And
you had both. You had both
too.
experiences, right? You had you saw hell and then you saw heaven.
Yeah, like for you know, like when people talk about orbs and stuff, like I felt like I was in that state, but I could only see darkness, and I could see these balls of light around me.
Flip, you're saying that you were an orb.
Yes,
You didn't have
like
a body.
energy, like a
Yes,
ball of
right.
energy. I didn't have a body, but I could see myself. You know what I did to myself.
Yeah.
And my mom coming in, and then boom, I went to this tunnel vision of everything that like deja vu experiences in my life.
Like a life review.
You know, yeah, like
yeah,
like and then also I've had an out of body experience driving down the road. I've seen Dogman. I've seen like I was coming out and I've seen stuff in the skies like light bulbs coming. Like I'd be staring at it. It's like almost like the UFOs, whatever. I don't know, whatever I think they're UFOs, but the UFOs notice I'm paying attention to them unless they turn off like a light bulb. Oh, there's one of them that paid attention to us.
You have a point there, Tyler, or Flip. At it. But you have a point there because you pay attention to it. It's like what you have one of these experiences, it opens you up, and now you pay attention. So many people are like, I call them zombies. They have stuff going on around them. They just don't notice it.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like I explain like a psychology in a child. I call it innocence. Like a lot of people don't have like most children have their innocence until they hit puberty. Once they hit puberty, then it's the hormones and all that stuff go inside them. There's a long psychology thing with it, but I feel like it's more like an innocence, blinders until something happens.
I think it's an openness to possibility.
Yeah.
They haven't built up the mental framework and walls and the mental construction of what they think we perceive reality as their safe place.
And my family members saying that, and they're like, I can have a gazillion people come over. I just got to do my research on it. I'm like, well, I'm the perfect guy to answer those questions. Like, I don't know how to tell you this. Like, I'm not crazy, but
Are you talking about the family experiencing paranormal activity?
Yep.
And blaming you for it?
Yeah, it's because they experienced scratch marks around me before. And I don't know what that was. I know what that was about because he was coming towards me, and he felt some heat on his back. And he lifted up his shirt, and he had 3 scratch marks on him. And I'm like, whoa, I don't know what that is.
Sometimes I think, Tyler, God, I keep sorry. I think it's expectation can play a role in what's going on. And if these people, it's the cave in Dagobah, Star Wars reference I make all the time. But Yoda tells Luke he doesn't need his weapons to go in the cave in Dagobah. Luke says, yeah, whatever, and snaps on his lightsaber and goes in with his lightsaber and gets in a big fight with the big Darth Vader version that ends up being him. He went in for a fight. Yoda's saying, you go in there, you're going to get what you expect. And I think that's what happens in these situations. They see the devil, they feel the devil, and they're going to have negative things happen. Maybe that's not what happens every time when these negative things happen, and it's something it does come from a dark place. It has nothing to do with their expectations, But
I feel like for those of us that have near-death experiences, we have those deja vus. And it's almost like I don't have the ability, but it's almost like I can see time hitting in either or splicing in one direction, or I'm going into the path of what my vision is, or what I seen in my near death experience.
Like you were showing the future, or are you saying you were showing the future?
I was seeing like the time that like one of my very first dreams, which was, I know this is really crazy, but I was a fox and I was running through the woods and boom, I came to be, and then I seen like my death, unfortunately, but I don't know what that's like all blur. Like all the other information, like I don't know. It's all blurred until it happens, if that makes sense. Like deja vu.
I honestly think when you have those dreams about death, because I've had several of my own, that they're more symbolic. They're not omens. They're more usually your subconscious trying to tell you something that gets your attention. It kills you in the dream because you remember it and you wake up, but there's symbolism mixed in there with all that that's trying to get your attention, to tell you something. Your subconscious, your higher self is trying to get your attention. What better way than killing you?
and that's one way to get your attention, you know. And although I'm not done here, but whatever's on the other side, I'm definitely ready for it. It's scary, but I definitely don't want to be that ball of light wondering where I'm at and hearing all these disembodied voices saying the same stuff, because it just felt like I was lost there.
Tyler, were you told you had to go back?
Yeah, that's good.
Tyler, did they tell you had to go back?
The voice, it was a strong voice that said, "I gave you many gifts in my name, and you have not used them. It is not your time yet." And then I woke up.
Sounds like
it was almost like it was almost like I didn't have a choice. I kind of wanted to stay, but I didn't want to at the same time.
Seems like we get mixed things on that from people. It seems like some people are like, "No, I don't want to go back." You know, you have to go back. There's some people, you know, that it seems like, "Do you want to go back, or you can stay? It's your choice." Like some people are given a choice, and some people are not.
And it's crazy now too with me being alive, because I'm with my dreams. I'm the most common dreamer. This is crazy too, because I've been single for so long, and I think a lot of it is probably to that. But I keep dreaming about a woman, and she's with me all night, and then at the end she leaves me, and she tells me, "Hey, I'll see you when you close your eyes again." I'm like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Why can't I see you? Why aren't you in this state?" And she's like,
"Are you still having dreams about this woman, Tyler?"
Yes, all the time. All the time. And it's kind of like, it kind of hurts a little bit, but then at the same time, I'm just like, maybe I feel like it's teasing me. It's like, come on.
You need to have you need to find a way. You need to find a way to, like, having the dreams is maybe getting to. I know you've done meditation, but meditation to communicate with whatever this female is, like, get down to the answers of it.
Right. I don't know. It's definitely a crazy thing to go through every day.
And you started having that after your near-death experience?
Yeah. Mainly it started after my cycle of addiction and stuff, and my first son's mom leaving me. It's when she really started coming through.
Yeah. I remember this was one of the first things you called into this show about years ago.
Yeah, and I can't figure it out. I mean, I kind of have an idea what it is, but at the same time, is it my brain playing a trick on me, or is it
an honest question you should ask.
Thought going in another spot?
Terry, what's your recommendation for him to kind of suss out these experiences?
Meditation.
That's what I said.
Prayer, whatever works for you. You've done some meditation?
Yeah, I do that a lot. Clean, whether it be me doing dishes or to me that feels like anytime I get that kind of peace, I sit there and think and go in my train of thought, clear my head a little bit.
I think you should try. I think you should try some guided meditations that would direct you to confront this person.
That's a good idea.
What do you mean by that?
Being guided by somebody in a guided meditation, almost like, I wouldn't want to say hypnosis, but in a sense, helping you get to a state to consciously contact the spirit of this female. Not a dream, but to actually consciously contact her and get answers.
Right.
Find out if it is your subconscious or is it an entity. To get deep down into what is it. That's your best bet of knowing.
And a lot of these people that have these near-death experiences, they start seeing things afterwards. And
yeah. And very much really could be another spirit, or it could be a higher part of you trying to talk to you.
It's interesting, though, how she says, that when he sleeps is when they'll visit, because it's easy for them to communicate with us when we're in a dream or...
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've had my dreams. I think they're more than just dreams, like seeing my grandmother on the other side, things like that.
I mean, I've seen. This is the craziest thing I've seen. I'm not the only witness to this. I was just in recovery, and I was like 3-4 years into it, and one of my friends was talking about using. And I just had this feeling like, dude, I shouldn't be here. I need to get out of here. I need to run. Next thing I know, a candle flies off the shelving, and I honestly feel like that was her.
Yeah.
Throwing that.
Telling you, no, you ain't going to do that again.
Yeah, you need to get out of here, and I left. Everybody was pale as a ghost. Like, what just happened? They're like, yeah, we think our house has been haunted for a long time, but we've never seen that ever.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, I want to thank you for calling in tonight, man.
Thank you. I always love
Happy Father's Day,
too. Well, thank you so much. Happy Father's Day to you and everybody out there.
All right, man. Have a good night, Flip.
Later.
Have you ever heard that? Somebody bringing something back with them. A spirit.
Oh, a spirit?
Mm-hmm. Because that's what it sounds like he's talked about over these years. After his near-death experience, that he brought a female spirit back with him. That he dreams about it a lot.
Huh. I think I would be...
concerned?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be talking to somebody with hypnosis. I think is a great idea.
Yeah, that's why I say guided meditation or hypnosis. To get some kind of clarity, or if it's an entity, to talk to it. If it's your subconscious or your higher self trying to communicate something to you, to understand what it's trying to be communicated.
If you really
go within.
Reach out. Yeah, you can get insight. I think if you got a problem and you ask for it and you're consistent. You might have to ask a lot, but you'll get insight.
You've heard about Robert Bigelow, and his new deal is the afterlife, proving it, or communication with the other side.
About that. As a matter of fact, someone asked me to help them write their entry because they're very specific. Yeah, their thesis. They're very specific rules. It had to be X number of, not to exceed X number of words. And
because there's a grant for money that they're giving. Yeah. I think that's awesome. I have to say, about Bigelow, he got into the UFOs and everything and investigated that. And now he's into near death. I think it's because of his wife passing. I think
his wife of 57 years.
Yeah. Passed. And so, he's really wanting to know. And I think that's awesome. He's going to fund money. I think one of my favorite movies from my obsession as a kid, like all my favorite movies, if I thought about it, never connected it till later, is that all my favorite movies deal with like something to do with the afterlife. Beetlejuice, or consciousness, I should say. Beetlejuice, Altered States, and Brainstorm with Christopher Walken. Remember that? Did you ever see that movie?
I didn't see the movie, no.
Like early 80s, I think. It was the last one that, what's her name? Natalie Wood? Was that the actress that drowned?
Oh, yeah.
And Christopher Walken was on the boat when she died. And there's still a mystery on that one, like who did it kind of deal. That's an interesting true crime thing if you get into true crime. But anyways, they did this movie called Brainstorm. It was Brainstorm, right? Yeah. I think it was, yeah. And they basically, it records your brainwave. Like, it records your brain.
Oh, I do remember this.
Remember that?
I saw the movie.
And so then you
yeah.
can put on, right. And you can put on, I saw this as a kid, okay, like, and then and most kids would be like, oh, this movie's boring. I was like, boom, sucked into it. And I've watched it a billion times. Like, they put on the helmet and they can see the memory. Well, one person dies and she records herself dying. And it has an effect of when you put it on going through the near-death experience or the death experience because she dies.
Yeah.
And I always love the end of that movie because he puts the helmet on and he's at this phone booth, whatever he had to like hack into the phone system. Remember the old phone line, hack into the internet?
Yeah.
With that, yeah, he has a hack in or whatever, and he replays this and he sees all these memories as bubbles. And he's flying through space, and there's all these bubbles that are coming at him with memories of his life, like the life review and everything. It's just a really beautiful movie. It's just a great movie.
What was?
But I also thought Altered States was a great movie, and my cousin and his wife watched that with me. They're like,
not so much.
looked at me like, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah. What's the movie that I See Dead People? What's that movie?
Sixth Sense, which I remember going to that with an ex-girlfriend and her hating me because I like halfway through the movie I go, and sorry, spoiler alert, I go, I bet you Bruce Willis is a ghost. I bet he's dead. I don't think he even made it through halfway through the movie, and I called it. She's like, shut up. And then at the end of the movie, she's like, God damn it. I don't want to watch any movies with you.
I never saw it coming.
Yeah, most people did it. But I'm a big movie buff, I wanted to do movies at that time. I was in college to do movies, and I just thought, what would you do with this? I just thought in my head as I was watching the movie, I'm like, man, if this is my movie, I'd make Bruce Willis really dead at the end. So that's when I opened my mouth and said that.
Like the and the others,
The Others. See, I got tricked by my cousin. I had a cousin Phil that tricked me on that one because he saw it before I did, and I'm like, oh, I think I already know how that's gonna end. No, it's not what you expect. I said, they're dead, aren't they? They're ghosts. She's like, no, they're not. He lied to me, so I'd watch the whole movie trying to figure it out as something else. So I would be surprised at the movie because we grew up watching movies together. I always did it as a kid, would predict movie ends. So he lied to me to throw me off. So in a way, as a gift, I could actually enjoy the movie somewhat because I was totally surprised for the first time because he lied to me. I'm like, but that's what I said. That lying SOB. But I love that movie too. The Others was a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and M. Night Shyamalan was the Sixth Sense. That was one of his kind of breakout movies. What a twist, But it was, you want to. Okay, we got a few minutes left. You want to hear a creepy story?
Yeah.
It reminds me of him and the kid going and seeing I See Dead People. Liam, my 7-year-old, just the other day, is outside playing, and he runs in looking like kind of white and like freaked out, and he goes, Daddy, there's somebody outside. I saw somebody duck behind Mommy's car. So I go and look, and I don't find anybody. I don't see traces of anybody. I look down the street to make sure nobody's running down the street or away.
Yeah.
We got pretty much fences all around here. It would be hard for somebody to jump over a fence here. So I go back and then I asked Liam, I said, okay, I didn't see anybody. What did you see? I saw somebody with a black mask. No eye holes. No nothing. It was just a black face.
Oh.
Peer up over Mommy's truck and then duck down when I noticed them.
That's interesting.
I've seen weird things in my driveway. And this is the part most parents would just say, okay, kid, yeah, it's your imagination. Not this parent. I always promised I wouldn't do this. So I did I stuck to what I always promised to how I would treat this with my kids. I tell them the truth. I go, well, I've seen some weird stuff in that driveway, and I'm not trying to scare you because I don't think any of these things can actually hurt you. Nothing I'm about to tell you, what you wear in this, it can't hurt you. But I'm going to tell you what you saw might have been something because your dad saw something in the driveway more than once. I once saw a translucent person walking side by side with me as I was walking down the driveway in the night, taking the garbage cans out.
How about your house? You think your house has...
I've had the spirit of the guy who built this house here show up sometimes, and maybe that's him because he did die out in the yard. Or at least he collapsed out in the yard. But I'm pretty sure, I think he died out there.
I also think that's why you get so much water in your basement. I think it has to do with him.
Well, I don't anymore. He told me. I think he tried to warn me about that. He showed me what plumbers use. That's a whole other story. But the neighbor, the driveway where I saw this thing walking alongside was in the neighbor's driveway. That's right next to my driveway. And I see this thing translucently walking down their driveway next to me. A man killed himself in that driveway. Our first neighbor, her ex-boyfriend, drank Drano in his car and killed himself in the driveway.
What a horrible
And
way
I
to
did
go.
tell my 7-year-old son this story, and most people are like, why the hell would you do that? Because we grew up in a family that we're honest, and we tell them, and I said, these things happen.
That's right.
And there are sometimes there's something out there, but it can't hurt you. I just, I want to let it, I always said I would not shield my kid. I would want them to open up to the reality of the perception of what they witnessed was a real thing.
Yeah.
So they don't shut it down.
That's what
Or
mine
close
did for
themselves
me.
off.
And I thank her all the time for that.
Yeah, instead of writing it off, I don't know if maybe I'm not the parent of the year for it, but just my philosophy on how to deal with it with my kids,
That's what I did.
Yeah,
My kids
I'd
are-
say my parents too.
42 and 38. But they're still kids,
Yeah,
They're always your kids.
yeah. I just turned 44. I still feel like a kid.
Yeah.
Not my body. I ache like so bad. It's such bad sciatic problems lately. But like in my heart, I'm very childish. I know.
Your babies always stay your babies.
Yeah, I know. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's been an interesting ride with my kids. We had there's weirdness and strangeness and all that stuff I've talked about on the show. So, and then just the other day, Liam surprised me with this whole thing. So, it continues. Well, I want to thank you, Terry, for being on the show again. I love having you on. Me and Jamie and Rob were looking so forward to having you on. And again, definitely want to have you in again. Are you working on, so Free Fall's out. People can get it now on Amazon. It is out,
Yep, you
available.
get it on Amazon and in audiobook and in Kindle and print. The whole
Yeah.
thing.
There's a hard copy.
There is a hard copy.
Yeah. I'd like to get a hard copy just because I gotta get up my hands on a hard copy, so I look at that because I want to put it next to my other books from you.
I haven't seen the hard copy.
I know you still haven't gotten it, have you?
No.
Oh, damn.
Hey, text me your email again so I don't have to go back through a bunch of emails. To
Just
get your
my
mailing
email
address.
Oh, my email address. I can email you. I mean,
Email,
but hey, I can text you too. Okay.
Yeah, whatever's easier.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
I'll try to get that in the mail tomorrow. Get yours and Whitley's. in the
All right.
mail
Awesome.
tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
definitely.
Did you know Leslie King wrote a book called Surviving Death?
From the New York Times.
Yeah, the
Check
lady
them
from
out.
the New York Times. The
Yeah.
lady that wrote Rush. The story about Rush with Ralph
Yeah,
Blumenthal.
Yeah. No, I didn't know she wrote that. So
Yeah.
she's somebody I'd love to get on the show. She's somebody I'd love to get on the show because
Yeah.
she seems like a very interesting journalist. They take subjects very seriously that we care about here. We need more of that.
Her book kind of Bigelow's wife died, right? We talked about
Right.
that was the real
Catalyst for his study.
yeah, but Leslie's book was a big influence for him. So much
Oh,
so
really?
that Leslie was there was a panel that judged all these papers,
Yeah.
and then Bigelow made the final decision. Jeffrey Mishlove, I heard, won like a boatload of money in that.
Yeah, I think we covered that in the World Wide Web of Weird. What interesting I was saying, we were talking about brain scan, is that I wonder if they're going to get into something, the money's there in technology. We really could research this near-death experiences and the afterlife, what we could really prove. It'd be really interesting. More to talk about with you in the future. Let me know you got another book coming out, or you want to come back, talk more again. I love having you on, Terry. So just always let me know when you're wanting to come on.
Well, thanks. I appreciate the hospitality. I always have a good time here.
Yeah, we always love having you on. I know the audience loves having you on and listening to you talk about any of these subjects. And any future plans for another book?
Maybe.
I hope so. You're an excellent writer. All right, guys. That is it for the show. Next week, we have another great returning guest, Katrina Cooper, spiritual medium, and Rhodey Speak. Next Sunday, same bad time, same bad channel, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, and 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific time. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Don't forget to follow, subscribe. Keep sharing the show out and telling your friends about Paranormal Soup, place where the weird happens live every Sunday night, and an open forum place where we can talk about these experiences with no judgments. Just trying to understand. All right, guys, have a great night. See you next Sunday.